Chapter 298. Two Senior. Xiao Xian. Master. Beside the plane, Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing, and Lan Qinghua had just alighted from the plane when they saw Wang Xian and Sui Huang. They immediately called out to them. Xiao Xian, what happened to the plane? The group of girls walked over and asked Wang Xian. Two inborn experts had a quarrel and implicated the pilots in the process. Wang Xian explained in a simplified manner. So that's what happened. I thought someone hijacked the plane, said Xiao Yu with a smile. Sui Huang. At this moment, the middle-aged man, who'd had a conflict with the other inborn experts on the plane, rushed over and greeted Sui Huang with horror. I'll investigate this matter clearly. You can go back and wait for my updates, said Sui Huang plainly. Yes, Sui Huang. The middle-aged man nodded his head respectfully before leaving. Master, why is everyone calling you by your name? Guan Shuqing walked to her master and asked inquisitively. There's only one Sui Huang. Sui Huang chuckled proudly. Although his name was Sui Huang, his title was also Sui Huang. Most people would address him by the title. All right, now that you are in your master's territory, have a good rest and time here. Tell me if there's anything you'd like. Haha. Sui Huang smiled and led the group to the exit. Grandpa. When they left the airport, two old men immediately walked over and greeted Sui Huang deferentially. Yeah. Sui Huang revealed a faint smile. He looked at the few black luxury cars ahead before turning to Wang Xian and asking, Brother Wang Xian, are you guys going with me, or? Wang Xian pondered for a moment before answering Sui Huang. We would like to walk around the streets of Shangjing first. We will go to your place in the afternoon, tomorrow. All right. Sui Huang nodded his head, turned to Guan Shuqing and said, Disciple, if you encounter any problems in Shangjing, just give me a call. Enjoy yourself. All right, Master. Thank you, Master. Guan Shuqing smiled and nodded her head. Sui Huang responded with a smile, after which he looked to the two old men by the side and instructed, Leave a car behind for them. Let's get back. Yes, Grandpa. The two old men nodded their heads immediately, after which they looked to Guan Shuqing and said, Marshal Senior Aunt, feel free to instruct us if you have any needs in Shangjing. Arg. When Guan Shuqing heard how the two old men addressed her, she was instantly stunned. The two old men were at least 70 years old. Although they had taken great care of their looks, one could still see signs of aging, and now they were addressing her as Marshal Senior Aunt. This instantly shocked Guan Shuqing. My dear disciple, based on seniority, these two kids should indeed address you as Marshal Senior Aunt. It will be fine once you get used to it. I'll give you a good introduction tomorrow. Sui Huang laughed loudly and remarked after seeing Guan Shuqing's reactions. All right, Master. Guan Shuqing smiled bitterly and forced a smile at the two old men. Brother Wang Xian, we will leave that car for you. I'll be getting back now for the preparations, commented Sui Huang heartily. All right, old Sui, go and handle your matters. I'll walk around the streets with them. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Goodbye, Marshal Senior Aunt, the two old men said deferentially to Guan Shuqing once again. Goodbye. Guan Shuqing replied quickly. As Sui Huang and the two old men left, Wang Xian was speechless. He turned to Guan Shuqing and asked, Shuqing, how old is Sui Huang, that old fogey? His grandsons are already so old. That's my master. How can you call him an old fogey? Guan Shuqing rolled her eyes at Wang Xian before replying. I've asked my master previously. He told me he has lived for more than 2 jiazi. Oh my God! It's no surprise then. He's still so powerful after 2 jiazi. He should be able to live for another few dozens of years. Wang Xian was shocked. 1 jiazi was equivalent to 60 years. 2 jiazi would mean that Sui Huang was over 120 years old. It's no surprise that the two 70-plus-year-old men were calling him Grandpa. Incredible. Wang Xian joked. If he could live for another few dozens of years, he would really be a living Buddha. It seems like there won't be people with higher seniority than you in the Sui family in the future. I don't want to have such high seniority. A couple 70, 80-plus old men just addressed me as their Marshal Senior Aunt. Guan Shuqing looked devastated to be called Marshal Senior Aunt by 70, 80-plus-year-old men. If that was the case, those of similar age as her would be calling her Great Marshal Nanny. At the thought of this, Guan Shuqing felt her world was spinning. Sometimes having too high seniority would be extremely embarrassing. Hee Shuqing, I think that's pretty cool. Just imagine a group of old men behind you and having to greet you with respect. Lan Qingyue chuckled as she commented, Yeah, sister-in-law, I heard from my master that families with deeper history typically have lots of rules. Considering your seniority, those middle-aged and younger generations might have to kneel down before you. Ha ha ha. It feels incredible just thinking about it. Xiao Yu was visualizing the scene in her mind as she laughed out loud. Forget it. That's not what I want. If you guys like it, you can take my place. Guan Shuqing rolled her eyes at the two girls who were deriving joy from her misery. Ha! Let's go. Let's see where the interesting places in Shangjing are. For lunch. Let's go get the roasted duck. Wang Xian was laughing at the girls' conversation, but interrupted at this moment. Let's go. Xiao Yu and the group walked towards the car excitedly. It was an extended Bentley with 6 seats, a rather luxurious car. They weren't surprised that a sacred clan could easily come out with cars like this. Mo Qinglong drove the car and brought the group to famous places in Shangjing. Shangjing was known for their roasted ducks. Therefore, they naturally would like to taste it since they were here. At noon, the group toured the Imperial Palace. The group was still full of energy and enthusiasm at night despite having played the whole day. All of them were martial artists. They wouldn't be tired even if they had been touring the whole day. What would you like to have for dinner? Should we eat in the hotel or head out? The Bentley drove on the streets of Shangjing. Wang Xian smiled and asked the few girls around him. As he spoke, he started observing Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue from top to bottom. Oh, Lan Qingyue, I haven't got my hands on you. Today will be a good opportunity. We aren't going back to the hotel yet. We have to go to the night market in Shangjing. After visiting the night market, we still have to go to the famous Wang Fu shopping street. I'm going to go on a frenzy of a shopping spree. Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing and Elder Fong were thrilled and spoke loudly. We have been shopping for the entire day. Aren't you guys tired? Wang Xian felt a little speechless at their responses. Fatigue is non-existent. We should be enjoying ourselves fully since we are in Shangjing. Xiao Xian, don't think of lazing around. We still need you to carry our bags. Lan Qingyue and Guan Shuqing looked at Wang Xian and gave their orders directly. Wang Xian was speechless. It seemed like he wouldn't be getting his way again tonight. Chapter 299. Call Daddy. 1. Haha, this is nice. Shuqing, try this. This is not bad. Sister-in-law, this is not bad either. Master, have a try. Shangjing, the richest city with the most robust foundation in the country, had the most lively nightlife. Wang Xian was left without a choice except watching the 4 of them buying snacks from various stalls nonstop. They looked happy as they chatted. Yet, they drew attention from countless people along the way. For beauties who were the top-notch existences, Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing, and Elder Fong were all martial artists with perfect figures. The 4 of them were rather tall, and they gave off a unique vibe. Even in Shangjing, a city never short of pretty babes, the 4 of them could easily overtake any one of them when they walked in a row. Let's go shopping. When the four of them arrived at a renowned shopping center in Shangjing, they went in with excitement. Shopping and taking care of their own looks were women's innate tendencies. Even the female inborn experts would not lose this born ability. Finally, they unleashed their born ability by exhibiting an endless amount of energy in shopping. Clothes, accessories, bags, one after another. Soon, Wang Xian and Mo Qinglong were following behind with hands full of bags. They were like henchmen tagging behind the four babes. Wang Xian shook his head. Imagine him and Mo Qinglong being the dignified experts, and they were downgraded to people who carried shopping bags for others for now. The four of them shopped till 11 p.m. before they finally had no choice but to stop. They even agreed to go to another shopping mall the next morning for more shopping. Wang Xian, who was behind them, stumbled as he almost fell to the ground. Not that he was feeling tired, but it was too boring for him. He could not understand this kind of pleasure. Here, Xiao Xian, wear this watch tomorrow. Men must have a watch of their own. Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue took out one thing that they bought for him as they spoke with beaming faces. Sure. Wang Xian took it over with a smile. The two of them had bought a nice and luxurious watch that cost over 2 million. But he really had no love for the watch. You could imagine that he had to remove his clothes every time he transformed into a dragon. Now he had another watch that hindered him. If he forgot to take off his watch, that watch would be gone as soon as he transformed. However, he could not turn them down. Let me find a hotel. Xiao Yu fished out her phone and searched for hotels. The hotels in Shangjing were quite popular. By this time, some of the hotels might have been fully booked. The group went into 3 hotels before they found one on the street. This is the street with the famous pubs of Shangjing. Xiao Yu was puzzled as she looked ahead. This street was the most lively place in Shangjing during the night. Women in sexy dresses with pretty and exquisite makeup were all over the street. Sports cars were parked on each side of the road. The rich people in Shangjing were far superior to those in Rivertown. Not even 10 Rivertowns could compare with one Shangjing city. Let's go back to our room and sleep. Xiao Yu swept a glance around and headed to the hotel ahead without much interest. It was a 5-star hotel, which was also rather well known. Wang Xian and the gang walked in. As they neared the entrance, Xiao Yu suddenly came to a halt. She looked at the person who stepped out of the sports car with astonishment. What's wrong, Xiao Yu? Asked Wang Xian in surprise. She's Ling Yi. Ling Yi. A reply that sounded surprised. Wang Xian was slightly stunned as he turned his attention over and saw a pretty girl. She was surrounded by another 3 young men and babes as they walked into the hotel. She's really Ling Yi. I love her song, Flying. It's motivating. Guan Shuqing and the girls spoke with amazement after they saw her. You shouldn't be too surprised if you see some actors and singers. After all, the best art academy is situated here. Wang Xian smiled. I love her songs. Xiao Yu smiled as she looked at the pretty girl. Wang Xian chuckled as he nodded. Are you going on a star hunt? Let's go. We better get back to our room and sleep. It's late. Fine. Xiao Yu nodded, but she could not stop looking at that pretty girl with curiosity. That singer, Ling Yi, also overheard Xiao Yu's conversation. She exhibited a faint smile as she spoke while leaning on a young man affectionately. 2 presidential suites. Mo Qinglong came to the reception and spoke to the front desk staff. I'm sorry, sir. We're only left with 1 presidential suite. Just one? Then just nice. The girls can take the room. Both of you can stay in standard rooms. Xiao Yu chuckled as she spoke to Wang Xian. Actually, I think I can squeeze in. Wang Xian said with a slight contemplation. Fat chance. Lan Qingyue and Guan Shuqing blushed as they spoke to him. 1 presidential suite and 2 suites. Mo Qinglong told the front desk staff. Sure, sir. That will be a total of $130,000. The staff said with a smile. Mo Qinglong handed his card over immediately. No more presidential suite. Just then, a young man's voice was heard. Sorry, sir. The last one has just been booked, the receptionist said with a smile. Oh, really? The young man raised his eyebrow as he pulled out a card and placed it on the reception counter. The Diamond membership card of your hotel. The Diamond members have priority over others when the room is booked at the same time. The young man spoke indifferently as he smiled at the people beside him. Wang Xian and the gang were stunned as they spun around and looked at the young man. He was around 30 years old. Beside him was the pretty singer, Ling Yi, whom Xiaoyu had mentioned just now. They were the people who had come into the hotel at the same time as them. The front desk staff was placed in a difficult position. Apologetically, she said to the young man, Sorry, sir. I have already swiped their card. So I'm really sorry. That young man was taken aback with a grumpy look on his face. Babes, can you let us have your room? I can agree to some of your requests, such as autographs and taking photographs. Ling Yi knit her eyebrows slightly as she peered at Xiaoyu, Guan Shuqing, and the rest. Xiaoyu also frowned. She looked at Guan Shuqing and shook her head slowly. I'm sorry, Ling Yi. We have already booked our room. Ling Yi was slightly caught by surprise as bewilderment flashed in her eyes. I can pay for your room as long as you let us have this one. The young man by the side continued to speak. Sorry. Guan Shuqing and the girls shook their heads at the side. Chapter 300. Call Daddy. 2. As Xiaoyu, Guan Shuqing, and the group rejected them, Ling Yi and the young man beside her instantly showed their displeasure. Hi, beautiful ladies. Can you do your idol a favor? Ling Yi frowned and asked this to Xiaoyu, Guan Shuqing, and the group. Ling Yi's response made the girls feel speechless, and they found it hilarious. Xiaoyu and Guan Shuqing shook their heads and replied, We aren't overzealous fangirls. We are sorry. We're going back to our rooms. As they finished their words, they took their room cards from the front counter and prepared to head towards their rooms. Ling Yi was shocked and embarrassed by the actions of these two fans. Wait a minute. At this moment, the young men standing by the side got serious. He tilted his chin up slightly, looked at Xiaoyu and the girls, and said, The rooms aren't yours yet. After commenting, he took out his phone and made a call. Let's go back and sleep. Wang Xian had been standing by the side, watching them silently. He found the whole incident hilarious and shook his head as he spoke to the girls. Carrying their trophies of the day in his hand, Wang Xian and the group walked towards the elevator. I said, Stand right there. Seeing that the group had totally ignored him, the young man's face turned gloomy. I'm calling the manager of this hotel. If you wish to be chased out of your room, feel free to go up right now. Wang Xian stopped in his tracks, turned to the young man and remarked, Are you a dumbass? Embarrassing yourself over a room? He couldn't understand how this young man thought. Perhaps he felt he was a notch above others and must stay in the best room. What did you say? The hand of the young man holding the phone stiffened as he glared coldly at Wang Xian. I'm calling you a dumbass. Is there something wrong with your ears? Xiaoyu pouted, looked at this young man, and was speechless about his conduct. You dare to reprimand me in Shangjing? The young man was so angry that he laughed instead. With a sinister smile, he pointed at Wang Xian and shouted loudly. Indeed, he's just another brat who is too used to being arrogant in Shangjing, commented Wang Xian as he looked at the young man. Arrogant? Let your daddy tell you this. In Shangjing, your daddy can be as arrogant as he wants. The young man glowered at Wang Xian before looking across the crowd and saying, These few girls are rather pretty. I'll give you a way out now. Get out of here, or your daddy will show you what is meant by arrogant. He pointed at the group. Young Master Yuan, who is the one who has offended you? Suddenly, a voice broke the standoff. A few middle-aged men walked in through the entrance of the hotel. From the group, a middle-aged man in a suit was shocked to see what was happening in the hotel as he dashed forward and shouted, "Manager's son, the service of this place is getting worse and worse. I can't even get a presidential suite here." Seeing manager's son running towards him, the young man remarked harshly, "How can this be? How can this be? As long as you want it, we will definitely reserve a room for you unless all the rooms are sold. Otherwise, we would definitely not hold them back or not give them to you." Manager's son ran forward with a smile to please the young man. "Is it so? In that case, why did your guys give the presidential suites to others when we arrived at the same time? Could it be that this card you gave me is useless?" Young Master Yuan looked at manager's son, and the corner of his lips curved into a smirk. "How can this be? How can this be? We will give it to young Master Yuan, even if it means not letting anyone else stay in it." Manager's son put on a pleasing smile once again, following which he turned around, stared at the front desk attendants, and shouted, "What are you guys doing? Can't you handle something so simple? If young Master Yuan wants the presidential suite, give it to him then. Do you guys still want your job?" "Manager, the two attendants stammered and felt bitter. However, they could only swallow their pride as they lowered their heads. "Did you see this? Get out of here now." The young man chided with contempt, looking at Wang Xian and the group. "Scram. Since young Master Yuan wants you to scram, you guys better scram," seconded manager Sunday. You guys. Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing, and the girls stared furiously at the young man and manager's son beside him. They had not expected the manager of the hotel to give away the rooms they had booked to others. Wang Xian's eyebrows knitted together, and Mo Qinglong, who was standing by the side, stared at them coldly and clenched his fist lightly. "Good evening, sirs and ladies." Just as Mo Qinglong was about to strike, a rather desolate figure saw Wang Xian and the group. He was shocked and stunned for a few seconds, after which he immediately rushed ahead. Deep fear gleamed in his eyes. When the voice of the middle-aged man sounded and he appeared in front of the crowd was taken aback. Manager's son's eyes popped wide open and he was flabbergasted. "It's you!" Guan Shuqing looked at the middle-aged man and exclaimed. The middle-aged man looked decadent, just like how he had appeared beside the plane in the day. "Miss Good evening." The middle-aged man greeted her in fear once again and looked at Guan Shuqing respectfully. He was still on tenterhooks about what had happened on the plane earlier in the day. After recalling the entire incident, all he felt was fear. His enemies had taken advantage of his easily angered personality as they forced him to strike on the plane. In the end, he almost lost all his rationality as he was shrouded in the desire for vengeance. Subsequently, that horrifying old man, Sui Huang, appeared and killed his arch-enemies with a single strike. Those were 4 inborn experts. As for him, he was still awaiting judgment from the old man after he broke the rules on the plane by fighting. Whether he lived or died fell solely on the words of that old man. With a whole afternoon to calm down, fear started welling up. If he was dead, what would be the outcome for his family and disciples? They probably would be killed by his past opponents. However, just as he was pondering how he could ask the old man to spare his life, he happened to meet this girl. When they alighted from the plane, his mental state was disheveled. Nonetheless, he still remembered clearly how that old man had looked at this girl dotingly. He even called her his disciple. She's the disciple of that old man, and that old man had not taken in any disciple for several dozens of years. If he could convince the disciple of that old man to put in a word for him, his life might be spared. He greeted Guan Shuqing anxiously and bowed sincerely. "What? Good evening, Director Zhou." Manager's son looked at this boss in shock. To his astonishment, the boss was bowing down to one of the girls that he had just tried to chase out of the hotel a while ago. Bam! The middle-aged man swung a slap over and chided, "You better watch your words closely next time. This is my last warning for you." Yes, Director Zhou. Manager's son staggered back a few steps. His face swelled up instantly as he answered in horror. "And you guys, get out of my hotel, and you are banned from entering in the future." The middle-aged man looked coldly at young Master Yuan. "Hee, you guys deserve it." When Guan Shuqing, Xiao Yu, and the group saw the situation, they smiled. Chapter 301. Call Daddy. 3. Zhou Qingkong, are you sure you want me to scram? The middle-aged man slapped cold words on that young man, embarrassing him instantly. The young man looked malevolent as he glared at Zhou Qingkong. Her. Zhou Qingkong squinted his eyes slightly as he peered at that young man with flickering eyes. Subsequently, he clenched his teeth to show his determination. "I said get lost, and you better do it now." "Fuck you, Zhou Qingkong. Do you think I'm scared of you just because you're an inborn expert? Feng family didn't annihilate you, so you want Yuan family to do it?" The young man burst into outrage as soon as he heard Zhou Qingkong. He pointed at him and chided with an extremely arrogant attitude. Even though he knew Zhou Qingkong was an inborn expert, he did not show the slightest fear. Obviously, his backing was somewhat powerful. I want you to get out now. You jolly well should do so. Annihilate me? Stop bragging, lad. Zhou Qingkong spoke to the young man with a sullen face. He knew which side he should be on by now. Fine you. The young man was morose and his face was flushed with redness. He pointed at Zhou Qingkong with constantly changing expressions. "Zhou Qingkong, you better watch out. If I don't destroy your hotel today, Yuan Fei, will tarnish my own reputation in Shangjing. Didn't you hear me asking you to get out?" Zhou Qingkong gradually turned gloomy when he saw Yuan Fei's behavior, encompassing him with a tyrannical oppression. 5 minutes. Just you wait. Yuan Fei felt the magnitude of Zhou Qingkong's imposing demeanor. His face paled, he gritted his teeth and spoke ferociously. Then he turned to Wang Xian and his gang with icy cold eyes. "And you guys too. Just you wait. I'll show you what it takes to provoke me. Let's go." He then turned and spoke to Ling Yi and the other 2 people next to him while he dug out his phone exasperatedly. Humph. Zhou Qingkong was slightly embarrassed. He took a deep breath and turned to look at Guan Shuqing again. "Miss, it's my honor that you stay in our hotel. I hope you have a pleasant rest today." "Thank you, Director Zhou." Guan Shuqing was delighted on her face as she expressed her gratitude when Director Zhou went all out to offend the young man in their defense. "You're welcome. Miss, which room are you staying in? I'll show you the way." Director Zhou said quickly. "It's okay. We can go over ourselves." Guan Shuqing shook her head. "It's nothing. It's my pleasure to serve you." Director Zhou shook his head in a hurry as he led them ahead. Manager's son behind him was a little dumbfounded as he stared at his boss with doubts on his face. Who was that girl such that his boss did not hesitate to offend Yuan family? Wang Xian, Xiao Yu, and the rest went into the president's suite. Boom, boom. After Wang Xian placed his things on the table, Elder Feng opened the window for ventilation, and they could hear the roaring of engines outside. Smash! Subsequently, the shattering of the glass window was heard. Wang Xian, Guan Shuqing, Xiao Yu, and the rest were slightly stunned as they went to the window immediately. What a lineup! Elder Feng looked outside with a surprised look. It's Shangjing indeed, with daring people stomping over the hotel of an inborn expert. At this time, more than a score of supercars were gathered at the hotel entrance. Each of the supercars was vrooming loudly with unruly young men standing in front of them. They were gazing at the hotel before them with arrogance. The engine sound from earlier had been from one of the supercars crashing into the hotel rampantly. Arrogance above anyone else. "Zhou Qingkong, you son of a bitch. Get your ass out here. Those whores, too. A familiar, conceited voice was heard, stunning Wang Xian and the rest as they exchanged gazes. Let's go down together, Wang Xian told Xiaoyu and Guan Shuqing immediately with a stern face. How dare he scold us? The girls were infuriated with that young man's cockiness and swollen head. They put down their stuff and headed downstairs. Bam! However, when they reached the lobby, a figure was sent flying to their faces. He spat out a mouthful of blood with a face as white as a sheet. Director Zhou! Guan Shuqing was aghast as she exclaimed. She hurriedly walked over and checked on him. I'm fine. As soon as Director Zhou saw Guan Shuqing arrived at the lobby, he revealed a smile on his pale-looking face. At the same time, a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. Haha, how dare you agitate my buddy? Zhou Qingkong, are you sick of living? A disdainful and complacent voice was heard. The hotel door was knocked down entirely, with a sports car crashing into the sofa in the lobby. Yuan Fei stood beside it, and he did not feel sorry for the luxurious car that had crashed. With his chin lifted up, he stared at Zhou Qingkong disdainfully. When he noticed Wang Xian and his gang were walking out, his face turned cold with a taunting look. All the luxury sports cars had already blocked the entrance of the hotel. More than a score of cars were parked at the entrance. A young man was sitting in a limited edition sports car at the center, and he had crossed his legs with a smile as he remarked just now. Beside that young man stood a domineering, middle-aged man. Obviously, he was the one who had struck just now. Apart from that middle-aged man, in every sports car sat a young man with taunting looks. They wore branded goods, drove branded cars, the typical rich second generation who had strong backings. Other than this group of affluent young men, several middle-aged men and elders were around with several inborn experts amongst them. Such a force was daunting. You guys came out. Ha! I'll make sure you kneel over here for the entire night. Yuan Fei took a look at Wang Xian and the gang with a stone-cold face. He was so conceited that, in his eyes, he had high regard for no one. He's quite something. No wonder he was such a rich idiot in Shangjing. They really must have some backings if nobody dares to go against them. Wang Xian observed Yuan Fei and turned his attention to the rest of the young men and two inborn experts at the door. Finally, he fixed his eyes on the young man at the center who had spoken just now. His last name is Sui? Is he from Sui Huang's family? Upon recalling what that young man had said, he whispered to Xiaoyu, Lan Qingyue, and Guan Shuqing next to him. All of them froze for a moment. If that's the case, it'd be interesting. Xiaoyu exhibited a teasing look as he looked at the young man in the sports car at the center position. With a smile, he said, Hey, lad in the middle, your nanny is here. If you're not paying your respects, then what are you waiting for? Boom! Xiaoyu's words struck all the young men in the sports car dumbfoundedly, almost immediately. How dare a lass speak to Sui Ao in such a manner? Tired of living. The young man in the middle was slightly stunned as he looked at Xiaoyu, Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing, and Elder Fong. With a smirk drawn at the corner of his lips, he sneered. Tell me, what do you think of asking them to crawl over to lick my shoes and call me daddy? Chapter 302. Crawl on your knees here and pay respect to great Marshal Nanny 1. Tell me, what do you think of asking them to crawl over to lick my shoes and call me daddy? Sui Ao looked around him as he commented casually with disdain. However, just as he completed his sentence, he broke into laughter and answered his own question. I think that's a pretty good suggestion. After which, he stood up. The surrounding group of young men naturally saw him as their leader and got out from their cars. Brother Ao, those girls over there are pretty good-looking. Licking shoes might be a little too much. Let me remove my shoes instead. Haha, Guzai, are you trying to stink them to death with your size 45 feet? I can't imagine the stench of his feet after he removes his shoes. You are too cruel. The few young men broke into laughter and joked as they walked towards the hotel. All of them were swollen with inordinate arrogance. They were all from elite-tier families in Shangjing. Each one of them possessed considerable strength. Moreover, they had now gathered together and had Sueo, who came from the highest tier existence in Shangjing. Therefore, the group was fearful of nothing. When the crowd walked into the hotel, a middle-aged man and an old man stood to the left and right of Sueo, respectively. Both of them gave off horrifying vibes. Sueo, who was standing in the middle, looked at Wang Xian and the group with contempt. He walked towards a chair at the side and placed one of his legs on it. Sueo typically wouldn't argue with girls. However, you guys have offended my brother, and therefore you guys have offended us. Sueo squinted his eyes and shouted, "Come here and kneel down! Come and kneel down immediately. Otherwise, we will toy with you till you die." Yuan Fei stared at Wang Xian and the group and chided before walking to the side of Sueo. You guys are so incredible." Wang Xian looked at the group of 20 to 30 young men coldly. Who are those people? Why are they so noisy? Yeah, why are they still kicking up a fuss in the middle of the night and disrupting our rest? At this moment, some guests arrived at the lobby of the hotel. Clearly, the commotion caused when the car crashed directly into the hotel had alarmed many people. 7 to 8 middle-aged men were in their pajamas. They had tattoos on their hands, with fat drooping down their face, but they looked extremely fierce. They bemoaned unhappily. However, when they saw the group of young men in the lobby, they were taken aback. Their gaze fell on some of them as their pupils constricted. Young Master Jin, young Master Feng, young Master Li. The few of them immediately went over to the group of young men to greet them. However, the group of young men wasn't paying attention to them. Their eyes were still fixed on Wang Xian's group. "TSK, you guys must be eager to die to offend young Master Jin and his friends." A middle-aged man chided Wang Xian and the group to get on the good books of young Master Jin. Scram! Mo Qinglong looked at the group of middle-aged men and shouted. Horrifying aura and killing intent swept towards them. "You are." Plop! The group of middle-aged men couldn't withstand Mo Qinglong's aura fully as they were knocked unconscious and fell to the ground. After which, Mo Qinglong turned to Sueo and the group. Contempt and disdain were written all over his face as he said, "Can you afford the consequences for making us kneel before you? Inborn expert, it's no surprise that you guys are acting so presumptuously." Sueo squinted his eyes and stared coldly at Mo Qinglong as he continued. "From your accent, I believe you must have come from somewhere other than Shangjing. Haven't you heard of the saying, in Shangjing, even inborn experts have to keep a low profile? Otherwise..." The middle-aged and old men beside him stepped forward at this moment. The aura of inborn experts immediately shrouded towards Mo Qinglong as they continued the sentence for Sueo. "Otherwise you will die too." Haha, I wonder who gives you the guts to be arrogant in our territory. Right now, I'll give you 5 seconds to get here and kneel before us. Otherwise, you guys can forget about leaving Shangjing. Not even an inborn expert could escape. Yuan Fei's haughty voice sounded once again. "Don't be so imperious." When Guan Shuqing saw the arrogant looks of Sueo, she was infuriated and continued, "You are Sueo. This has nothing to do with you. Stay out of this and don't be arrogant. Otherwise, I'll let my master know." Haha, imperious? Sueo burst into laughter. "A few foreigners dare to offend my brother. It's only natural that I'll be involved now. Let your master know. Even if your master was here, he would have to kneel before me like you guys. All of you here have to kneel before me today until the sun rises. Otherwise, I'll strip you guys and throw you on the street. You girls are pretty good looking. I believe there would be lots of people interested. Hee, Brother Ao, these girls are really beautiful. Haha, they are pretty good. However, I still prefer to see the horrified looks of beautiful girls. What a pervert you are. As Sui Ao completed his words, the group of young men around him joked and conversed casually. This group of young men wasn't concerned about the strength that Mo Qinglong had demonstrated, or Wang Xian and the group. You. Great. I'll convey what you said to my master. Guan Shuqing was referring to Sui Huang when she talked about her master. She had asked Sui Ao to stay out of this, but he started insulting them instead. This infuriated her and made her pull out her phone right away. Ao. She's really calling her parents now. Haha, this is interesting. When Yuan Fei saw Guan Shuqing take out her phone, he looked at her with ridicule and mocked loudly. I'll let you call anyone you wish. In Shangjing, there's really no one we are afraid of. Get your master here. I'll let him kneel down in front of me too, said Sui Ao disdainfully. Hearing what Sui Ao and his friends had said, a cold light flashed in her eyes. Hello, master. Someone is bullying me. Guan Shuqing's voice sounded. When she called through the phone to Sui Huang, she immediately spoke bitterly. There are people who dare to bully you when Brother Wang Xian is with you? Where are you? I'll send my guys over. In a Sihiyuan in Shangjing, Sui Huang sat with his legs crossed, cultivating. When he heard his disciple, he was taken aback initially. His name is Sui Ao. He brought many people with him, and they surrounded us. After which, he demanded that we kneel before him and even wanted to strip us and throw us to the streets. I told him that I'd be informing you, and he said he would make Master kneel in front of him if Master was here. Guan Shuqing snitched to Sui Huang as she repeated everything Sui Ao had said previously. You really called your master? In that case, tell him to get right here, kneel before us, and apologize. Sui Ao heard what Guan Shuqing said over the phone and responded loudly with disdain. Chapter 303. Crawl here on your knees and pay respect to great martial Nanny, too. Sui Huang, with the phone in his hands, froze, standing in the room. He was stupefied with what his disciple had told him just now. Upon hearing the haughty voice from the phone now, his expression darkened immediately. The other party wanted him to go there and kneel in front of him. On top of it, it was the descendant of the Sui family who had said it. For a moment, Sui Huang's face sank with a cold expression. Not only had his descendant bullied his new disciple, but he even wanted him to go over with his knees on the ground. This unfilial descendant may have not known the truth, but it was still disgraceful and unforgivable. Looks like some of the younger fellows of Sui family are accustomed to arrogance. Sui Huang darkened his expression. As the pillar and founder of Sui family, he fought with his life such that they could become a sacred clan and achieve their current status. Now he was old. He could only have a few decades of lifespan left. For the future of Sui family, he had spent 20 years roaming around the country just to find a successor. He wanted to find a disciple who could take over for him and inherit his prowess. Nothing is impossible for those who try. He finally found a fantastic disciple, and he was sure that this disciple would be extraordinary. Her strength could reach his realm easily. When he turned old, his disciple could still maintain the prosperity of Sui family for another century. Yet a lad from Sui family had dared to provoke his own elders, and even acted arrogantly in front of him. Sui Huang had a nasty and cold look. Disciple, where are you now? Someone will be there in 5 minutes. I have not been meddling with family affairs for 20 years. It looks like some people have forgotten about how their ancestors worked hard for the family. Sui Huang hung up his phone and made several calls. Get your ass to Fenghua Love Hotel now. My disciple is surrounded by a lad from Sui family. He was so arrogant that he asked me to kneel and apologize to him. You better get over and settle it for me now. A phone call was made to the current Sui family leader. The leader of Sui family, age 75, was the grandson of Sui Huang. When he heard his grandfather's exclamations, he was so frightened that he almost peed in his pants. That's right. almost peed in his pants. His grandfather was a godlike existence to him. In his impression, his grandfather may have been a mild person, but anyone who provoked him would be as good as digging his own grave. Yes, grandfather. I'll bring my men over and check out who that is. I'll ensure Marshal Ant's safety. A film of cold sweat covered that old man's forehead instantly. As one of the 3 sacred clans leaders in Shangjing, when had he ever been so panicky before? Ensure her safety? Get it done in 5 minutes. Sui Huang hung up the phone immediately as soon as he finished. Yes, yes. Despite hearing the dial tone, the old man continued to answer and nod in fear. Subsequently, he called his siblings one by one with a darkened expression. Grandfather is angry. Check who the troublemaker is now. A phone call got all the 3rd generation of Sui family to put on their clothes and set off in a panic. They were the current headmen running the family. If their grandfather was angry, this was serious. All the cars, one by one, drove out from Sihiwan at late hours. Sui family had a score of 3rd generation members, and the number increased when it came to the 4th and 5th generations. Currently, the Sui family had over thousands of members, blooming with offspring. Haha, you finished making your call? Interesting. Let's see who your master is. It'd be good if she was a pretty woman. No fun having an old man. Sui Ao chuckled loudly. Brother Ao, you have unique taste. Haha, what do you know? Brother Ao is growing rapidly. From Lolita. Young girls, young ladies to pretty women. We should learn from him. The bunch of young men remarked with a smile. Humph, I hope you can laugh 5 minutes from now. Upon seeing their cocky faces, Guan Shuqing spoke with disgust. All of you will be kneeling before me in 5 minutes. Yuan Fei stared at them with disdain. Humph. Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue, and the rest stared at them coldly. We'll wait and see if you can laugh later. The bunch of young men smiled and commented on Xiao Yu and the rest, looking at them from head to toe. Wang Xian and his gang kept quiet. Your 5 minutes are up. It looks like your master is late. In this case, why don't you guys just kneel down now? I don't have the time for you. Sui Ao looked at his watch after 5 minutes and commanded them with contempt. Her. At this time, luxurious cars were parked at the hotel entrance, with old men walking out from them. Brother. Brother. Clan leader. All the elderly people looked over and greeted the old man who was dressed as a clan leader with 2 golden words, Shang Sui on his clothes. Let's go. The old man swept a glance at the rest before he frowned at the sports cars in front of the hotel. A cold smile surfaced on his face. As soon as he was at the door, he heard the arrogant voice. The clan leader immediately pulled a long face and walked in. Those elders behind him were also looking stern. This incident not only enraged the clan leader, but it also incensed their grandfather. That man was the fundamental reason for Sui family to be standing firm. Do we need to kneel before you too? A voice resounded in the hotel lobby, stunning the group of young men. Sui Ao was puzzled as the voice sounded familiar to him. Who? Get in here. He turned around with some impatience in his soft bellow. This. When the young man at the door turned around, his entire body stiffened up. All of them parted their lips with wide and round eyes in disbelief when they saw the group of old men arriving at the door. A total of 20 old men were walking into the hotel with eye-catching family uniforms. There was another old man with an expensive-looking walking stick standing to the side. The bunch of young men at the door unconsciously stepped aside with trembling bodies when they walked in. The atmosphere was so still that they could even hear their own breaths clearly. Clan leader. Sui Ao opened his eyes wide when he saw that all the 3rd-generation members of Sui family, including his grandfather, were here. All he had was a surprised look. Clan leader, grandfather, why are you guys? Asked Sui Ao fearfully as uneasiness surged. but he did not dare to think further. The clan leader cast an indifferent look on Sui Ao, the current most outstanding offspring of Sui family. He did not reply to anything as he swept his gaze across Wang Xian. Eventually, he fixed his eyes on Guan Shuqing and quickened his pace. The elders behind him sped up at the same time. Chapter 304. Crawl on your knees over and pay respect to great martial Nanny 3. An old man with a walking stick walked at the back of the pack. When he walked to Sui Ao, his body shivered a little as he glowered at him. "Grandpa, what happened?" asked Sui Ao cautiously. At this moment, the experts of the Sui family of his grandpa appeared with him. "What happened?" the old man growled while trying to keep his anger in check. To the astonishment of the crowd, he waved his walking stick ruthlessly toward Sui Ao's legs. Bam! Crack, crack! Without holding back at all, the walking stick swung heavily on Sui Ao's legs. Sounds of his bones snapping instantly propagated throughout the lobby. "Arg! Grandpa!" Sui Ao shrieked in pain. However, the physical pain he felt from the body wasn't what he was most concerned with right now as he looked in horror at the grandpa who had always doted on him dearly. To his surprise, the old man with the walking stick didn't even pay attention to him after hitting him and simply walked past him. The surrounding group of young men held their breath and they were terrified. The current clan leader of the Sui family and every member who held considerable influence in the clan were all here. These 20 people represented the sacred clan, Sui family. Moreover, they were the ones with speaking rights in the Sui family currently. Every single one of them had extremely large authority and influence. Sui Ao was just one of many grandsons when compared to these true big shots in the Sui family. Read more chapter on novel full. Regardless of seniority or standing, Sui Ao was nowhere close. However, the crowd was soon stunned and horrified by what was to come. The clan leader of Sui family and the third generation of Sui family walked towards the girl that made the call directly and lowered their heads respectfully. "Greetings, Marshal Senior Aunt." "Greetings, Marshal Senior Aunt." Marshal Senior Aunt. The clan leader of the Sui family and the third generation of the Sui family are addressing the girl as their Marshal Senior Aunt. Oh gosh! The clan leader and a member of the upper management of Sui family are calling the girl their Marshal Senior Aunt. She. What's her real identity? The surrounding group of young men looked on in horror and disbelief. When Sui Ao saw his grandpa and the clan leader lowering their heads in front of the girl, his body couldn't help but shiver in fear. Marshal Senior Aunt. Marshal Senior Aunt. Marshal Senior Aunt. He was in a daze as he mumbled. Slowly, fear and horror gripped him. If that girl was the Marshal Senior Aunt of his grandpa, wouldn't that make her the disciple that his great-great-grandfather was taking in? Oh gosh! His great-great-grandfather was an immortal-like existence in Sui family and the true soul pillar of the Sui family. That phone call from before. At the thought of this, his body started shivering violently. He didn't dare to think about the consequences. It's over. At this point, Guan Shuqing was once again embarrassed by the group of old people addressing her as their Marshal Senior Aunt. The age differences between them were too huge. Guys, get up now. You don't have to be so courteous. It's our fault that Marshal Senior Aunt had to suffer such grievances in Shangjing. The clan leader of the Sui family continued deferentially. The disciple of their grandfather was deserving of them acting deferentially towards her. The old men with the walking stick turned around, glared coldly at Sui Ao and demanded, "Crawl here on your knees and pay respect to great Marshal Nanny." Yes. When Sui Ao heard his grandpa's voice, he immediately crawled over. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. "Great Marshal Nanny, this is all my fault. I failed to recognize you. It's my fault. Please give me another chance." Sui Ao had completely lost his pride and arrogance as he kneeled there, apologizing constantly. The group of young men behind him was paralyzed with fear. Yuan Fei felt his whole body go numb as he lost all control of it and collapsed onto the floor, after which he quickly went on his knees. I was wrong. I was wrong. When the group saw Yuan Fei go down on his knees, they also kneeled down in horror. Sui Ao was the leader of this group. Now that even Sui Ao had to kneel down, they could only do the same in front of the Sui family. TSK. Guan Shuqing sneered at Sui Ao, who was horrified and lost. You were still so arrogant a while ago. Why are you acting like a wimp now? Marshall Sr. Aunt. Grandpa instructed us to handle this matter. We will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Seeing that Guan Shuqing was clearly still displeased, the clan leader of Sui family spoke immediately. In that case, I leave this to you. Thank you for rushing here at this hour. Seeing the group of old men being so respectful to her, Guan Shuqing spoke gently, as she would feel bad if she continued to be demanding. It's all right, Marshall Sr. Aunt. Do you want to return with us to have a good rest? The clan leader of the Sui family asked, revealing a smile. No, thank you. I'll just stay here for the night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. In that case, we shall not disturb Marshall Sr. Aunt, said the clan leader of the Sui family, after which he looked to the group of old men that had come with him. Grandpa is dissatisfied with the current state of Sui family. Aren't some of our disciples from Sui family getting too arrogant outside? It's time to teach them a lesson. Perhaps some of these juniors have forgotten about the sweat and tears our grandfathers and fathers shed to give us what we have today. It's time we do something. As Sui Ao heard what the few old men said, his face turned as white as a sheet. Clan disciple Sui Ao has offended his senior and broken the rules of the clan. Your identity as a core disciple of the clan will be taken away, and so will the benefits bestowed upon you. You shall now be deployed to manage the company. The clan leader of the Sui family gave his orders immediately. Upon hearing this, Sui Ao felt desolated. With all his rights as a disciple of Sui family taken away from him, he could only be an ordinary member of the Sui family and would have to work for the family. His future might end up even worse than ordinary Sui family's disciples. All the young men around him were shocked and horrified. Sui Ao was the most gifted in the current generation of the Sui family. He was also ranked 10th on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. Yet, everything would be taken away from him as he would be shifted from the core of the family to the fringe businesses. It would likely be difficult for him to make a comeback even if he made it to the inborn realm. Or rather, without the resources provided to him by the Sui family, how could he possibly reach the inborn realm? His magnificent life could now be declared as completely finished. Guan Shuqing looked plainly at Sui Ao. After bidding goodbye to the group of old men from the Sui family, she followed Wang Xian and the group back to their rooms. The clan leader of Sui family looked at the middle-aged men standing beside their Marshall Sr. Aunt. We have investigated the matter in the day. If you do it again, our Sui family will come and annihilate you. Yes. Thank you, clan leader Sui. When Zhou Qingkong heard clan leader Sui, he was thrilled. His meager life had finally been kept. His gaze fell on the desolated Sui Ao as he couldn't help but sigh. You must be too eager to die. As a junior in the Sui family, you stood up for others and humiliated the disciple of your great-great-grandfather. If this isn't courting your own death, what else is? Chapter 305. Arts of Refining Elixir Pills. A storm was over just like that. However, it did not affect the ebullient mood of the girls at night. The next day, the four ladies knocked on Wang Xian's door at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. as they dragged him to see the flag-raising ceremony, all in high spirits. Wang Xian was speechless. Sometimes women's energy was beyond imagination. After watching the flag-raising ceremony, they went to the famous bun shop in Shangjing to have some buns. Subsequently, they went shopping again. Wang Xian could only help to carry their shopping bags behind them as he watched the four pretty ladies walking into stores, one after another. It was only after just past 3 p.m. in the afternoon that they stopped after receiving Sui Huang's call. "This is insane." Wang Xian let out a brief sigh. The group took a car and came to an ancient district in Shangjing. This place was known to be old and ancient because it was filled with sihiyuan. In Shangjing, an ancient sihiyuan could easily cost a few $100 million. It was not easy to get a place here even if one was wealthy. However, there was a mountain known as Shangshui Mountain just right behind the sihiyuan. Many people did not know why it was named Shangshui Mountain. Only those who knew called it Sui Family Sacred Mountain. There were 3 sacred mountains in Shangjing, which represented 3 powerful sacred clans in Shangjing. When Wang Xian and the rest drove a car to somewhere near, someone from the Sui Family Sacred Clan would guide them around. Read more chapter on Novel Full. "Great Nanny, please follow me," said a middle-aged man to Guan Shuqing respectfully as he led the way ahead into Shangshui Mountain. "Okay." Guan Shuqing nodded as she looked around with curiosity. They were surrounded by sihiyuan. Most of them were connected, and the doors were not closed within. Groups of well-dressed Sui family members were either dressing up or exchanging conversations. Most of them were talking about Sui families, Lao Tzu accepting a disciple. Too, they were in awe of it when they were talking about it. From there, one could tell Sui Huang's status in Sui family. Does the entire region belong to Sui family? Xiao Yu was surprised as she looked around. There were hundreds of sihiyuan around them, spanning an area of several kilometers. This seemed like a small village. "Yes, this is Sui family's territory. Our sacred mountain is just ahead." The middle-aged man smiled and nodded. He was a little proud, as this was the strength of Sui family. "Impressive." Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue, and the rest were slightly stupefied. Just these sihiyuan of Sui family were worth close to $100 billion. Besides, not everyone could get sihiyuan even if they had the money. The gang followed the middle-aged man into the mountain. The entire Shangshui Mountain was landscaped. The peak stood at about 40 to 50 meters tall, which was not very high. A cave was found at the center of the mountain. A domineering flame seemed to be coming out from that cave. There were quite a number of houses on the mountain that resembled ancient buildings. "Lao Tzu is staying in this room. You may go in." The middle-aged man pointed to a house. "Sure." Guan Shuqing nodded, and the group walked into the room. "Master, come in." Sui Huang's voice was heard. After Wang Xian entered the room, they saw him sitting in a chair, reading a book in his hand. "My disciple." Sui Huang put down his book and smiled. He was wearing the uniform of Sui family with no hair out of place. Every move that he made exuded the superior vibe of an expert. He looked very different from how he had looked back in Rivertown. "Master." Upon seeing Sui Huang, Guan Shuqing walked to him and beamed. "Master, you became more good-looking." "Haha. Well, I was even more handsome when I was young. Many girls in Shangjing carried a torch for me." Sui Huang chuckled as he stroked Guan Shuqing's head. "Xiao Qing is also a pretty girl. You need to change into Sui family's uniform later in the disciple acceptance ceremony tonight. I already got them ready for you. Since there's nothing much going on now, go and change your clothes now." "Yes, master." "Take Xiao Qing in to change her clothes." Sui Huang instructed a servant in the house. "Yes, old master." The old servant nodded and looked at Guan Shuqing. "Miss, please follow me." "Okay." Guan Shuqing nodded. "Let's follow them and check it out." The 3 ladies went to join in the fun, leaving the rest behind. "Old Sui, your Sui family is quite impressive." Wang Xian sat down at the side bluntly and began to sip his tea. Haha, of course. After all, this is the sacred clan which I founded. Sui Huang was very proud as he praised himself shamelessly. Wang Xian quirked his lips and did not answer him. Ever since they had towed the plane together yesterday, both of them were less awkward and their relationship was closer than before. Besides, Sui Huang may have been old, but he acted like a child. Hence, he was someone easy to get along with. Wang Xian had a rather good impression of Sui Huang. I can tell that you have quite a number of good things in this sacred mountain. Old Sui, I want to check it out. Haha, sure. I'll take you around. I've been managing this place for 100 years. Sui Huang stood up with pride. He signaled for Wang Xian to go out with him. This is the Sui family's sacred mountain, and it's not just a name. Sui Huang gazed at the surroundings and smiled when they were outside. What treasures do you have inside that cave? Asked Wang Xian with a smile. Let's go. You'll find out when you get there. Sui Huang chuckled and brought Wang Xian into a cave in the sacred mountain. They were swamped by the heat as soon as they went in. The temperature inside was at least 100 degrees. Any ordinary people would be incinerated the moment they entered. The entire cave was glowing in red. Wang Xian looked up and spotted 2 giant flame spiritual beads embedded in the top. Below it was fuming magma and a few tables for the use of cultivation. There was a red door deep inside, but he did not know what was behind the door. This is our cultivation area. What do you think? 2 spiritual flame balls, and one of them is body refining spiritual flame ball. Not bad, is it? Sui Huang said with slight contempt, as he had spent quite a lot of effort to obtain these 2 spiritual flame balls. Not bad. Wang Xian did not rebuke him this time. The 2 spiritual flame balls were all level 10, 1 level higher than the spiritual flame ball he had gotten the other time. Never underestimate the difference between levels. It marks a significant difference between inborn or non-inborn. Let's go. I'll show you my alchemy room. Sui Huang was beaming as he walked inside and opened a door. More than 330 square meters of space popped out in front of them. In the middle of the room was an alchemy furnace. Chapter 306, Kai Lu Fad, Triangular Alchemy Furnace. Below the alchemy furnace was tumbling lava. The entire alchemy furnace was green and looked like it was from a long time ago. Despite being within a cave of a scorching hot volcano, Wang Xian didn't feel the heat at all. This is my triangular green alchemy furnace. I found it from an ancient ruin. As for the arts of refining elixir pills, I got it from the same place. This is also the root of my ascension. Sui Huang smiled and looked at Wang Xian. I don't know how a demon like you can reach this horrifying realm at such a young age. You probably have your own chance encounter. Hee. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Subsequently, he turned and looked at the alchemy furnace inquisitively. I had not expected the alchemy recorded in history to really exist. I wonder if I could concoct elixir pills that grant a person eternal life. Elixir pills that grant eternal life? Haha, that might be possible. Records of emperors in history searching for all kinds of elixir pills to extend their lives weren't just myths. They truly existed, Sui Huang said in a definitive tone. When it came to refining elixir pills, he maintained a confident and reverent attitude. Is it really that incredible? Could it be that there were real immortals on Earth in the past? Wang Xian was surprised and asked as his eyes beamed. Perhaps. However, there might not have been. Sui Huang sank into deep thought and couldn't give a definitive answer this time. Based on some records, there were definitely more experts in the past than current times. As for the existence of immortals recorded in mythology, I can't be sure. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. The world is too mysterious. Based on mythology, there were ghosts and demons that roamed the world and immortals that flew in the air. However, these claims couldn't be verified. As to whether there were real immortals, no one could be sure. It was especially so for ancient martial artists. After all, their arts of cultivations had all originated from the past. The path of refining elixir pills is vast and deep. If you can become a powerful alchemist, you will gain huge benefits too. As for the value of elixir pills, they are typically valued 10 times more than spiritual medicine of the same level, explained Sui Huang. Really? Wang Xian was taken aback as he asked in shock. Read more chapter on novel full. Definitely. The effects of level 1 elixir pills could match the effects of a level 2 spiritual medicine. Sui Huang explained as if he was explaining a known fact. Spiritual medicine in the world is just simple elemental energies and effects. If you could mix them with other spiritual medicine to form elixir pills, the effects of the elixir pills would be several times better. Naturally, refining elixir pills is an extremely difficult thing. It requires great talents and control over fire. At my current realm, I am only able to refine up to level 5 elixir pills. A level 5 elixir pills made by me can allow a half-step to inborn realm expert reach the inborn realm directly without obstructions. Level 6 elixir pills can allow an inborn expert to reach the half-step to Dan realm. Level 7 elixir pills can allow a half-step to Dan realm expert to reach the Dan realm. Wow, that's incredible. Wang Xian was shocked. The path of cultivation requires Kai, Lu, F.A.D. Based on this sequence, Kai is the first requirement. It represents resources. What's the most important resource for cultivation? That is spiritual medicine. Lu represents cultivators who cultivate together. It is about interaction, cross-verification, and helping each other understand. Lu could also refer to one's master and receiving guidance from one's master. Naturally, it could also refer to couples. Fa refers to the cultivation method. In other words, it's the secret art of cultivation. As for D, it's about the location of cultivation. Kai, Lu, Fa.D together are a train of thoughts that any cultivators, past or present, can agree to. Resource is the first requirement, and therefore you should be able to see the importance of spiritual medicine and spiritual grass. Sui Huang explained to Wang Xian. Wang Xian pondered. As a divine dragon and having the divine dragon system, the system could substitute for Lu. For Fa, he had the divine dragon transformation. For D, he had his dragon palace. He was only lacking in Kai. If the system was similar to the divine dragon cultivation system, would Kai appear in the system in the future? Only by having all 4 requirements could he become a powerful divine dragon. As for the notification from the system, he had only learned about the dragon palace after subduing 3 marine animals. Could it be that I need to reach a certain condition to have the Kai? If that's the case, what should I do? Can it be that I need? Wang Xian's eyes beamed as he looked to the triangular green alchemy furnace. Since he had obtained the system, there were few notifications. Moreover, this system was different from common novels he had read. The system did not issue him a mission or a main path to follow. He had to do the discovery of most things by himself. Old Sui, that Wang Xian's eyes shimmered and smiled. Old Sui, can you let me take a look at your arts of refining elixir pills? When Sui Huang heard him, he was taken aback. His expression turned gloomy and looked at Wang Xian with ridicule. Rascal, you have pretty thick skin. Passable, passable. Wang Xian pressed on and continued. I'd just like to take a look as I'm interested in it. If I can become an alchemist, I'll send some level 6, 7, and 8 pills to you after I refine them in the future. Sui Huang was a little annoyed upon hearing Wang Xian. Level 7, 8? Do you think the arts of refining elixir pills is that simple? Disregarding refining elixir pills, can you find level 7 and 8 spiritual medicine and grass? You sure know how to brag. In that case, tell me what I have to do for you to show me your arts of refining elixir pills. Wang Xian asked directly. You little rascal. Sui Huang wasn't pleased when he heard that Wang Xian wanted to learn about alchemy. This was his trump card and the reason for his ascension. However, he recalled that his wife would be his disciple. He couldn't guarantee that his disciple wouldn't let this rascal know. I'm fine with you taking a look at the arts of refining elixir pills. However, in the future, and as long as you are alive, if my Sui family is in trouble, you have to help them. Besides that, give me some treasures that interest me. Otherwise, don't even think about it. Sui Huang said with a little disdain. I'm fine with helping out, but I can't be forever guarding your Sui family, right? 3 times. 3 times at the maximum. As for treasures... Wang Xian frowned. He didn't seem to have any treasures at all. Even his spiritual medicine was used up by this old man. I'll give you the treasures when I find them. In that case, let's continue this conversation when you have something that interests me. After finishing these words, Sui Huang continued impatiently, Go. I'm not bringing you around anymore. If something interests you, you might just take it away from me considering how thick-skinned you are. Damn, old man, am I a person like that? Wang Xian was speechless and asked him this directly. You aren't? You just asked me for my trump card. You're not a person like that, sneered Sui Huang. You didn't even give me anything, right? Wang Xian choked and his voice softened. I'm not silly. Who would give you this the moment you demand it? Sui Huang shot him a deathly glare. All right, I shall not argue with a petty guy like you. When I find the treasures that can interest you, I'll exchange them for your arts of refining elixir pills, answered Wang Xian shamelessly. After which he changed the subject rapidly. Let's go. Old Sui, show me around the place. TSK, not calling me an old man anymore? Old Sui, please. Chapter 307. Getting Something with Nothing, 1. Sui Huang really lives up to his name. A sacred clan indeed. Impressive. Wang Xian saw Sui family's spiritual medicine garden in a cave and praised Sui Huang. The space before them was filled with various spiritual medicine, and most of them came with fire attribution. All of the spiritual grass was glistering, and all of it ranged from level 3 to level 5. Right in the middle was level 6 spiritual grass. All the different varieties added up to a few hundred tufts of spiritual grass in total with an inestimable value. Stop your bootlicking. Even if you do so, I'll not hand over my arts of refining elixir pills to you. Sui Huang snorted with eyes full of haughtiness. He remembered that this lad had exploded domineering oppression to compete with him when they first met. Obviously, Wang Xian had wanted to overwhelm him on their first encounter. Now he finally gained back some face. Haha. Wang Xian was not embarrassed at all despite the fact that his trick was discovered. He laughed. Didn't you ask me how I managed to raise my spiritual grass so easily the other time? This has got something to do with my physique, and I'm a doctor. As Wang Xian spoke, he walked and put his hand in the garden. Read more chapter on novel full. All the spiritual grass was glowing with faint luster as it absorbed the immense azure dragon energy injected into the garden. Who? Wang Xian pretended to be tired as he wiped the film of sweat he purged from his forehead. Then he smiled at old Sui. How is it? Look at the spiritual medicine garden. Don't you think their vitality has increased? That's true. Old Sui was taken aback as he looked at the spiritual medicine garden. The spiritual grass grew livelier after Wang Xian placed his hand in the garden. Even those that were dying came back to life completely. You're welcome. Wang Xian smiled and waved his hands. Old Sui's face turned black as soon as he heard him. Who wants to thank you? All right, it's almost time. Tonight's disciple acceptance ceremony will begin soon, said old Sui to Wang Xian. Okay, I'll observe from the side and see how you guys hold the ceremony, Wang Xian said with a beaming face as he followed behind. Lao Zu, great-grandfather. Grandfather. As soon as they walked out of the cave, they saw the descendants of Sui family walking toward the sacred mountain. They were slightly taken aback when they saw Sui Huang walking out. Immediately, they bowed to him with respect. Okay. Sui Huang nodded and entered the same room that he had come out of just now. Sui family members gazed at Wang Xian with doubts. They did not understand why a young man was standing beside Lao Zu. Master, Guan Shuqing, who was waiting in the room, came out immediately as soon as Wang Xian and Sui Huang stepped in. Beautiful, beautiful. Sui Huang looked at Guan Shuqing with a satisfied expression on his face and chuckled. Guan Shuqing was wearing some vintage where that resembled those uniforms from before the 1950s. Her clothes were all black with a flower embroidered at the chest. On it was written, too. This represented the second generation of Sui family and also the disciple of Sui Huang. Sui family's uniforms looked the same except for the numbers at the chest to distinguish the generations. Yes, you're quite pretty. Wang Xian smiled at the side, as the design of Sui family's uniform was beautiful. Let's go. It's almost time, Sui Huang said to them as he looked at the wall clock that was almost striking 5 p.m. Guan Shuqing nodded. The group of people followed Sui Huang to the mountain summit. There was a small square, half the size of a stadium, on the summit. It did not seem crowded, even with more than 1,000 people standing there. On the summit were some tables with food. The dishes were simple, just like the home-cooked food of any ordinary families. Back in the center were 9 cauldrons. The one in the middle was the biggest, about 5 meters in size, with flames burning in it. It was surrounded by another 8 smaller cauldrons. The cauldron in the middle was known as the Emperor Cauldron. Starting from the north in a clockwise direction, the 8 cauldrons were known as Bao, Du, Song, Gang, Tong, Fu, Jing, and Kuei cauldrons. 9 cauldrons represented prosperity for the nation and family. This meant that Sui family would prosper forever. There was a central seat and 2 accompanying seats just below it at both sides. The 3 seats were empty at the moment. All the members of Sui family aged 5 and above were all present. They turned their attention to Sui Huang as soon as they arrived. Wang Xian, you shall sit beside me. Disciple, you shall stand at the center position. Sui Huang said to Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing. Allowing Wang Xian to take the accompanying seat was a form of recognition of his ability, as though he was on par with Sui Huang. Therefore, he was fit to sit in that seat. The other accompanying seat was saved for today's main highlight, Guan Shuqing. Wang Xian and the rest nodded. Lan Qingyue and Xiao Yu took the seats at the furthest end. Following Sui Huang to the central position, Wang Xian smiled as he took the accompanying seat. Sui family members were surprised to see a young man sitting over there. All of them found it unbelievable. How could such a young fellow deserve to sit on that accompanying seat? What ability did he possess? All the second-generation members were seated below them. But since Lao Zu did not make any comment, the rest of the people did not dare to say a word. I'm sure you know why we're gathered here today. I, Sui Huang, have taken a new disciple. She will be my last disciple. Sui Huang stood up slowly as he overlooked everyone on the stage as he spoke. Wang Xian did not pay attention to the cumbersome ceremony procedures of the sacred clan. Instead, he observed the people below him. The entire sacred clan, Sui family's strength was gathered in this place. All the experts in the Sui family were present. 23 inborn experts. TSK. Sui family possesses quite a formidable strength. An alchemist indeed. He can nurture experts at a rapid speed. Wang Xian exclaimed. He recalled that the number of inborn experts that Flame Palace had, including those who joined at a later stage, was only about 16. A single Sui family already had 23 of them. With such a strong expert like Sui Huang around, the flame palace was never a match. The ceremony was usually cumbersome for ancient families. Kneeling and bowing, serving tea, and paying respects took around 10 minutes. Okay, disciple, come over. After the procedures, Sui Huang beckoned Guan Shuqing over with a beaming face. Yes, master. Guan Shuqing smiled and took a seat by his side. Congratulations to father for accepting an outstanding disciple. Junior sister, how are you? These are some gifts. I hope you like them. At this time, several elders who were sitting in front stood up on both sides. They bowed to Sui Huang and took out their gifts one by one. All of you have put in the effort. Xiao, Qing, accept them. They should give you gifts. Chapter 308. Getting something with nothing, too. Yes, master. Guan Shuqing nodded her head, after which she walked over and said, Thank you, Marshall Senior Brothers, for your gifts. You're welcome. We will be one family in the future. If there's anything we can help you with, feel free to let us know. Several 90-plus-year-old elders replied with smiles. Although they were old, they were in the pink of health. This might be because they were all inborn experts. Junior sister, this is a defective flame ball. It's a shame that I can't find a complete one. I have been using it for more than 10 years and have little use for it now. I'd like to give this to Junior sister as something you can use to protect yourself. Junior sister, this is the highest level elixir pill I can refine right now. It's a level 3 elixir pill and highly nourishing for a girl's skin. I don't know what kind of weapons Junior sister uses. Therefore, I'd like to give this jade dagger to Junior sister. A few old men took out their gifts and handed them over to Guan Shuqing. Thank you. Thank you, Marshall Senior Brothers. Guan Shuqing thanked them immediately. You're welcome. I heard Junior sister reached level 9 martial artist after just a month of cultivation. We are really embarrassed in comparison. You might just be able to reach the level of our father in the future. The 5 sons of Sui Huang exchanged pleasantries with Guan Shuqing. Clearly, they knew what the junior sister in front of them would become in the future. Thank you for all your gifts. I really like them. Guan Shuqing felt spoilt by the gifts she received. The gifts from them were truly valuable, and she really fancied the gifts. Wang Xian stayed by the side and smiled. The people of the Sui family were generous, and the gifts were all highly valuable. Read more chapter on Novel Full. It's been close to 10 years since I have gathered everyone here. The oldest of the 5th generation children are already 29 years old. Let me see the strength of these kids. Sui Huang looked plainly at the last row of disciples and shouted, Yes, Grandpa. 5th generation of the Sui family, step forward now. Show your strength to your Laozu. The current clan leader of the Sui family stood up and shouted at the crowd of 5th generation disciples. A group of young people and teenagers stood up immediately. Surprisingly, there were close to 100 of them. Lift the cauldron, shouted the clan leader. The group of young people and teenagers nodded their heads and stepped forward to the large cauldron in the middle of the room. Ha! A young man shouted as he grabbed a large cauldron. Expending all his strength, he lifted the large cauldron up. His face was flushed as a result. Ha! 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 One after another, the young people and teenagers grabbed cauldrons of various sizes and lifted them up. Wang Xian noted that the weight of each cauldron was different. One could tell the strength of them by looking at the cauldron they lifted. Level 5, Level 6, Level 7, Level 8, Level 9. Wang Xian looked across inquisitively. Other than a young man who had managed to lift the Level 9 cauldron, the rest were all weaker than this level. It's pretty impressive for a 26-year-old young man to lift a Level 9 cauldron. However, for a Saint class force, that's not really acceptable, Wang Xian thought to himself. At this moment, Sui Huang, who was sitting in the middle, was clearly not very pleased. As the surrounding people noticed the displeasure on Sui Huang's face, They also started feeling a little fearful. The most outstanding disciple in this generation was Sui Ao, and we spent lots of resources on him. He has even reached the half-step to Inborn Realm. It's a shame that he courted his own demise. Seeing the displeasure on Sui Huang, the other members of the Sui family whispered softly among themselves. To be only at this level when they are in such a good environment and enjoying such great resources, it seems like this generation couldn't match the previous ones at all. Sui Huang gave his comments emotionlessly. Saying that this generation couldn't match previous generations was harsh, but factual. Grandpa, this is my failure. It's all my fault. The current clan leader of Sui family immediately went on his knees and asked Sui Huang for forgiveness. Cold sweat covered his face. Please calm down, father. The group of old men immediately stood up and said, You guys must be getting more and more complacent and must have lost the drive from before. The most outstanding disciple actually gathered a group and behaved like a group of thugs against my disciple in the middle of the night. Who's the one that gives them the right to be so imperious? Sui Huang said plainly. All the other members of the Sui family felt their hearts skip a beat. The current generation of the Sui family was disappointing him. If their Laozu was angry, the whole Sui family would be shivering in fear. No one in the field even dared to breathe loudly, for fear of drawing the rage of their Laozu. Sui Huang's current aura. Wang Xian, showed a mouth of teeth as he smiled. He looked at the group of 100 people standing in the middle of the field. Suddenly, a thought struck him and he revealed a smile. Sui Huang, your Sui family has gotten worse by the generation. When I visited the newly crowned sacred sect, Flame Palace, a while back, they had 2 outstanding disciples who are on the outstanding young heroes chart. It appears that your family doesn't even have one. Wang Xian said with a mocking tone, and his voice resounded in the field. Everyone could hear him clearly. The surrounding crowd was taken aback and looked at Wang Xian in shock. They were furious, but embarrassed. A young man said right in the face of their Laozu that the descendants of the Sui family were all trash. This was equivalent to openly mocking and criticizing them. It was especially so on this occasion. When Sui Huang heard Wang Xian, his face turned gloomy instantly. He also knew that his descendants weren't great at all. However, he didn't need an external person to point it out so blankly. Please choose your words carefully, young man. Our sacred clan isn't something that anyone can look down on. Comparing us with Flame Palace, who has been annihilated, you have gone overboard. Rascal, apologize immediately. 2 old men from the 3rd generation of the Sui family looked solemnly at Wang Xian and demanded. Saying this in the face of the entire Sui family infuriated the members of Sui family, even though Wang Xian was sitting next to Sui Huang. The mentality of you guys isn't right. You should be ashamed instead of angry over what I've said. Perhaps you guys have lost yourself under the halo of the sacred clan. Wang Xian sat on the elevated platform and spoke to them in a tone as though he was educating them. Looking at how Wang Xian was behaving, all the other members of the Sui family felt embarrassed. Sui Huang, who was beside Wang Xian, also pulled a long face. What rights do you have to criticize us? What kind of strength do you have? A young man from the Sui family stood up and shouted angrily. That's right. What rights do you have? Another young man stood up and questioned Wang Xian bitterly. If it wasn't for Wang Xian being close to their Laozu, the inborn experts of the Sui family might have struck and annihilated him. Just 4 people? That's too few. Come, it's not that I'm looking down on you guys. All the 4th and 5th generation disciples step forward. I'll show you what qualifications I have to say that. Wang Xian's lips curved into a smile. Shaking one of his legs while sipping on tea, he looked down on all of them as he spoke. His behavior was like suggesting everyone here was just trash in his eyes. His arrogant words and brazen expression immediately aroused the anger and fury of all members of the Sui family. Chapter 309. Succeed. Boom! You're tired of living. How dare you insult Sui family? As soon as Wang Xian finished his sentence, hundreds of disciples of all ages and generations stood up and glowered at Wang Xian. Lad, watch how you're talking. Who are you to speak to us like this? Apologize now, or else. An outstanding middle-aged inborn expert stared at Wang Xian coldly as he spoke. Hundreds of Sui family's disciples exploded with immense heat as they gathered like a furnace trying to melt Wang Xian away. Just two inborn experts. Wang Xian shook his head slowly and took a sip of tea before he placed it on the table. Roar! A soft dragon bellow came from Wang Xian's mouth. Subsequently, he spat out a dragon ball. Roar! Once the dragon ball came into sight, it turned into Fire Divine Dragon immediately. The 7-meter-long Divine Dragon dived towards the 4th and 5th generation of Sui family's disciples rapidly. Imposing demeanor and domineering oppression struck fear into all the people around the area. What? A 2nd-generation old man from Sui family was aghast as soon as he saw the domineering oppression exploded from the Fire Divine Dragon. He quickly stood up and faced the Fire Divine Dragon. Her. Wang Xian frowned slightly as he looked at the old man. Sit down. As Wang Xian shouted softly, the old man, who was about to stand up, grimaced. His body was trembling violently. He turned his head with disbelief as he gazed at Wang Xian with astonishment. The rest of Sui Huang's sons who were around were also shocked as they looked at Wang Xian. A soft bellow, an imposing demeanor that was exuded, was able to trap their leader. They were dumbfounded by the domineering strength. They swallowed saliva in disbelief. Could it be? They looked at Wang Xian in horror, and then back at their father again. At this point, Sui Huang was knitting his eyebrows at Wang Xian. He could not make sense of what Wang Xian was doing. But Sui Huang did not make any comment as he, too, realized that the Sui family members had such a good life that they had forgotten to stay vigilant. Roar! Just then, the Fire Divine Dragon arrived above the 4th and 5th generations of Sui family in the field. Daunting dragon power encompassed them over their heads, and the blazing flame struck fear on their faces. That's scary. A 5th-generation disciple was appalled as he quickly fled to a far distance. Divine Dragon, this is the legendary Divine Dragon. More disciples collapsed immediately onto the ground, as they were aghast. Roar! Another dragon roar was heard. 500 to 600 4th and 5th generation disciples let out a sharp and painful shriek as intense flames swept across. Most of the disciples of different ages were injured as fear crawled all over their faces. They were crying in pain as they rolled on the floor. Only a handful of people, 5 or 6, stood below with determination as they gazed at the dragon in the sky with pale faces. Child, my child. Child, stop it. The elders from Sui family broke out heart-wrenching pleads. The situation turned chaotic on the sacred mountain of Sui family. Yet not only Sui Huang, but the 2nd and 3rd generation elders also darkened their expressions upon seeing such a situation. They were not furious at Wang Xian, who had made a joke out of their descendants. Instead, they were outraged by the performance of their younger generations. Coward, coward! A 2nd generation old man of Sui family gritted his teeth. He lowered his head with shame. Sui family's clan leader was so ashamed that he shook his head. Sigh! Just then, Wang Xian let out a sigh on the stage. He was looking upset as he took out 6 glowing beads slowly from his arms. 6 of them were giving off a mixture of sapphire and red glow, which made them look creepy. Sui Huang was astonished as he stared at the 6 beads in Wang Xian's hand. Old Sui, these are 6 meridians clearing beads, which I obtained almost at the expense of my life. Wang Xian pretended to be distressed as he spoke. With a swift movement, he appeared in the center of Sacred Mountain. Only 6 people were standing in the square at this time, with 2 middle-aged men, young men and juveniles each. Roar! The divine dragon above them let out a roar and enveloped them with 6 individual flames. They were the body refining flame from body refining spiritual flame balls. Painful looks were left on the 6 faces as the flames were injected into their bodies. The 6 beads that were glowing in a mixture of sapphire and red colors in Wang Xian's palm went directly into their mouths. Bam, bam, bam. Wang Xian walked to a middle-aged man and jerked his arm. He injected a gust of dragon energy into the middle-aged man and unblocked his last conception vessel and governing vessel. Boom! An immense inborn power came from him. Subsequently, Wang Xian swung his arm and came to another middle-aged man and repeat his actions. Boom! Another inborn oppression was felt. At this time, those Sui family members who had been screaming in pain on the floor or had been distressed over the scene were stupefied. All of them watched in shock at what had just happened. This. 2 middle-aged half-step to inborn experts had stepped up to inborn realm. At this time, Wang Xian did not stop. He came to the remaining young men and juveniles and repeated what he had just did. My meridians have all been unblocked. An excited voice came from a young girl who was the only female standing in the field. She looked to be at most 19. She was trembling with joy as she sensed the changes in her body. Mine too. I have made a breakthrough to half-step to inborn. Another young man was exclaiming excitedly at the top of his lungs too. All 8 extraordinary meridians have been unblocked, made it directly to half-step to inborn. All the people around were stunned by the 6 persons as they looked shocked on their faces. Everyone slowly turned their attention to that young man who had a casual smile as if nothing in the world bothered him. Wang Xian smiled as he swung his arm. A gust of azure dragon seeped into the bodies that were lying around on the floor, whose injuries recovered swiftly. In a move, Wang Xian leaped to his seat, picked up the teacup on the side and took a sip. We recovered from our injuries. Yes, that's true. What amazing medical skills. Those people who picked themselves up from the ground were shocked as they observed their bodies. Suddenly a young man muttered, "We seem to have missed an opportunity." All of them were stunned as they quickly spun around and looked at the 6 people. Only they had persisted up to the very end. Now, their 8 extraordinary meridians were all unblocked. This was the opportunity, a big opportunity. Thank you, young master, for your kindness. Thank you, young master, for your kindness. The 2nd and 3rd generations of Sui family quickly stood up from their table and greeted respectfully. They were no longer enraged or infuriated as before, instead showing a high level of respect for this young man since he had done so much for the good of Sui family. Chapter 310. Spiritual Island on the Sea. Thank you, young master, for your kindness. Beside the cauldron, the 6 disciples of Sui family, whose 8 extraordinary meridians had been cleared by Wang Xian, kneeled on the floor respectfully and expressed their gratitude. Around them, after seeing their seniors had stood up to thank Wang Xian, the other members knew that they had to do the same. Therefore, they stood up one after another and said loudly, "Thank you, young master, for your kindness." Wang Xian, who was sitting beside Sui Huang, waved his hand plainly, following which he turned to Sui Huang and said, "Old Sui, those are meridian-clearing beads that I went through great lengths and dangers to get." All right. I know what you are after, rascal." Sui Huang gave him a glare before continuing, "Follow me back after this. I'll let you take a look at the arts of refining elixir pills." "Thank you, old Sui." Wang Xian smiled, as he'd gotten something he wanted without giving up anything. Nope, he did give up something. Other than putting up a show, he exhausted some dragon energy. Wang Xian was thrilled. By showing kindness to the Sui family in this manner, Sui Huang wouldn't be stingy considering his personality. After all, he had increased the numbers of inborn experts in Sui family by 6. This wasn't a small gift. All right, I believe you guys have seen the problem today. I don't wish to see this again. Sui Huang instructed the members of the Sui family. The performance of the 4th and 5th generation of the Sui family was really terrible. This had infuriated Sui Huang. However, the gift Wang Xian took out was indeed able to make up for some of these weaknesses. This was also the reason why Sui Huang agreed directly to allow Wang Xian to take a look at the arts of refining elixir pills. Who's the young man with our Lao Tzu? He's really incredible. The ball he spat out from his mouth could actually turn into a divine dragon that even inborn experts couldn't withstand. The ability to heal the injuries on everyone with a wave of his hand is really amazing. If he can sit beside our Lao Tzu, he must be at the same level as our Lao Tzu. At the same level? Oh gosh, he's so young, and yet he's already at the same level as our Lao Tzu? Unbelievable superpower. That's what a real expert is. As the ceremony ended, the group saw their Lao Tzu leave with Wang Xian. The disciples of the Sui family were whispering fervently and were clearly in awe. Even the 2nd generation of the Sui family had to look at the figure in fear and respect as they sighed. Wang Xian could hear the constant compliments and worship of the Sui family's disciples behind him. Subconsciously, he revealed a faint smile. He followed behind Sui Huang and arrived at a cave enthusiastically. This is the book recording the arts of refining elixir pills. I'm only allowing you to read for a night. Within a cave, Sui Huang took out a simple-looking book made of parchment paper. On the parchment paper, dense ancient text was written all over. Luckily, what was comforting was that there were various papers slotted in between the parchment sheets. These were the explanations for the ancient text. All right, thank you, old Sui. I'll give you a godly elixir pill after I refine them. Wang Xian laughed. After informing Guan, Shuqing, Xiao Yu, and the rest, he took up the arts of refining elixir pills and started going through them. Puff! I hope it works. Wang Xian took a deep breath. If he could extract dragon energy from spiritual medicine, he should be able to do the same for elixir pills. Going further based on what Sui Huang had explained, an elixir pill had 10 times the effects of spiritual medicine. That would mean that the dragon energy within the elixir pill was at least several times that of the spiritual grass. In that case, refining an elixir pill could also allow him to increase his strength level quickly. Furthermore, although he was able to raise Dragonians rapidly to the inborn realm, it would be extremely difficult for him to raise them to the Dan realm. Even if he wished to help, it wouldn't work. Therefore, if he could refine powerful elixir pills, and if he had the ability to breed spiritual grass and medicine, he could raise the strength level of Dragonians to the Dan realm rapidly or even to a higher level. Wang Xian flipped through the arts of refining elixir pills slowly as he memorized each word on it. Ding! Grasped the arts of refining elixir pills. After 5 hours, the notification of the system sounded in his mind. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elements divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level 7. Dragon energy, 1963 for 21/10 000 000. Superpower, dominate marine animals, ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than your own level. Devour any form of marine animals for extraction of dragon energy. 5 elements control. Art of cultivation. Divine dragon transformation. Arts of refining elixir pills. Alchemist apprentice. Refine all elixir pills in the world with the origin source flame. Wang Xian looked at his personal attributes through the system and noticed anew arts of refining elixir pills under his art of cultivation. Moreover, the introduction of his arts of refining elixir pills looked much stronger. Refine all elixir pills with the origin source flame. I wonder how strong the arts of refining elixir pills is. However, I'm just an alchemist apprentice at this moment. Should I try to refine some elixir pills? Level 3 elixir pills and below would not require an alchemy furnace to refine. However, it would still require a fire attribute cultivator. It's a shame that I do not have any spiritual grass or medicine with me currently. I'll find time to give this a try after I get back. Wang Xian thought to himself. The entire arts of refining elixir pills was written on 30 to 40 pages of parchment paper. Other than the first few pages which introduced the method of refining elixir pills, the rest were all elixir pill recipes. An elixir pill recipe was very important to an alchemist. Without an elixir pill recipe, it would be extremely difficult for one to refine elixir pills by self-discovery. Wang Xian looked through it for the entire night. Along the way, he visualized the process. Finally, he had completely memorized all the contents on the parchment paper. Brother Wang Xian, how are you doing? The next morning, Sui Huang smiled radiantly as he walked into the cave and asked Wang Xian. Understood and digested completely. A Grandmaster Alchemist is about to surface in this world. Wang Xian smiled and answered Sui Huang in a joking manner. Oh, is that so? It seems like Brother Wang Xian's arts of refining elixir pills will be surpassing all that comes before you, and you will soon rule the world with it. Sui Huang replied with a little sarcasm. Wang Xian smiled and handed the parchment book back to Sui Huang. We will be returning back home today. Old Sui, do you want to go back with us? I'll return tomorrow. I still have some family matters to handle. Sui Huang answered and shook his head. Wang Xian nodded his head, exchanged some casual words, and left the cave. Young master. At this moment, Mo Qinglong came to him and reported. Young master, it's about the Dragonians. Oh, what's the matter? Wang Xian asked immediately. They had found the real culprit behind the incident of Mo Ersan and Mo Senyi previously. However, Wang Xian had instructed Mo Yuan to investigate the source instead of taking revenge immediately. One of our brothers found a piece of spiritual land on the sea, said Mo Qinglong enthusiastically. Spiritual land. Wang Xian was shocked and felt confused. Mo Sherwu found a well-hidden island in the sea. The island has dense spiritual energy on it. Based on his conjecture, it should be the remains of an ancient sect, and there should still be treasures on it. However, the island was surrounded by strong marine animals guarding it. The island was also extremely mysterious. Mo Sherwu didn't find the island by himself. Those that were with him have already informed their families and sects. If that was really the ruins of a sect, there might be quite an amount of spiritual medicine in it. It might even have more spiritual treasures. Chapter 311. Patrolling Yiksha 1. The ruins of the ancient sect is the spiritual island? Wang Xian wondered with a tinge of fervor. Since meeting the Sui family yesterday and having witnessed their possession of countless spiritual grasses and treasures, Wang Xian had realized his destitution. He had $2 billion cash on hand as capital, but he had since handed all of this to Lan Qingyue in request that the Lan family help with the procurement of gold and silver. The construction of the Dragon Palace was 40% complete. Based on estimates, he predicted that the palace would be completed within 2 more months. Aside from these $2 billion, he possessed no treasures otherwise. He also paled in comparison to the Sui family when it came to forces and manpower. Currently, the Sui family had more than 20 inborn experts. Meanwhile, of the Dragonians in the Dragon sect, the only inborn experts were Mo Yuan and Mo Qinglong. Given their speed of cultivation, it would take another month before the remaining Dragonians could set foot in the inborn realm. By then, the abilities of his forces would be rather prominent, with 50 inborn experts as his henchmen. The Dragon Palace will need upgrading after its completion. which means the consumption of resources will be even greater. I'd better prepare beforehand. Would be best if I had the means to earn spiritual stones in the long run, Wang Xian thought to himself. He would have to go all out for these ruins of the ancestral sect, given that he had way too few resources on hand. So much so that even a level 1 force was richer than him. Where's the spiritual island located? Let's head right over today. Wang Xian exclaimed to Mo Qinglong without the slightest hesitation. It's about 500 kilometers away from Rivertown, in the open sea. Mo Qinglong replied, Young master, should we gather the Dragonians from the dragon sect? Dragonians? That's not necessary. Wang Xian shook his head. Since the henchmen from the Dragon Palace are always standing by in combat mode, there was no need for the Dragonians when it came to ocean battles. Moreover, based on their current combat abilities, the Dragon Palace would, in fact, be far superior to the Dragon Sect. Bring Mo Yuan along. The 3 of us shall rush over from Rivertown, Wang Xian said to Mo Qinglong. Yes, young master. Mo Qinglong nodded in response. Wang Xian came to the Sihiyuan and found Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, Xiaoyu, and Elder Fong. He proceeded to inform them about the plan. Returning so soon? I'd planned to have fun for another 2 days. Xiaoyu whined. Here's the deal. Isn't winter break arriving around the corner? When it does, I'll take you out for some fun. Wang Xian pacified with a smile. Thereafter, he purchased flight tickets, and together, everyone made their way to Rivertown the same afternoon. At mid-afternoon, Wang Xian and the group arrived at the villa. Wang Xian boarded the yacht with embarrassment as Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue gazed in dismay. Young master, we'll have to rush over at the soonest time possible. Mo Sherwu has reported sightings of 3 major forces gathering around Spiritual Island. Mo Yuan reminded Wang Xian. Yep. Wang nodded in acknowledgement. As he stood on the deck, his heart stirred. Shum, shum, shum. In the nearby waters, creatures surfaced one by one. As they emerged, they opened their eyes and gathered around a gigantic turtle. Follow the Dragon King. Prime Minister Turtle commanded members of the Dragon Palace. As he did, he shook the mud off himself and opened his eyes slightly. Yes, Prime Minister Turtle. The members nodded in acknowledgement. The force was comprised of Roving Heavens, Roving Girl, Roving Lobster, and 9 venomous sea snakes. They were also followed by devil monkeys from the Devil Division, led by Roving Heavens. Together, the devilish creatures followed closely beneath the yacht as it pressed on. After a period of cultivation, all members of the Dragon Palace had undergone massive changes. The appearance of Roving Girl had become increasingly human-like. So much so that an outline of her nose and eyes formed and became more defined, with droplets lining their edges. As for Roving Lobster, its physical size grew up to 3 meters. It shimmered in a body of gold, while its 2 mammoth pincers added to its majestic air. Being the first 2 under Wang Xian's wing, the combat abilities of both Roving Girl and Roving Lobster had reached level 10. These 2 aside, the ones with the next most changes were the devil monkeys. Right now, scales had grown on the bodies of nearly 800 of them as they glowed in the flames of the devil dragon, while their claws and teeth sharpened by the day. Other than Roving Heavens, whose combat powers had reached level 11, 3 of the 800 devil monkeys had also hit level 10. The majority of the rest had also reached between level 8 and level 9. It would not be long before all devil monkeys could conquer ocean battles, armed with a level 10 prowess. The yacht soared ahead, making a dash for the open sea. Close to 7 hours later, Wang Xian and gang finally closed in on where Mo Sherwu was. Over here, Wang Xian asked with squinted eyes as he surveyed the area ahead. Just then, as it descended at the far end of the horizon, the last rays of the evening sun shone upon the sea surface. But Wang Xian soon discovered, to his astonishment, a thick fog surrounding the areas in front. And just up ahead, the misty fog continued to ascend. The ocean is a magical place where mystical seas are filled with miraculous creatures. Wang Xian recalled reading a book. It introduced the oceans as vast seas which held secrets far exceeding man's imagination. For one, there was the most renowned Bermuda Triangle with its magnetic field. The fields were so unique they resulted in aircraft malfunctions and the sinking of ships. In addition, there was also the continent which had disappeared in history. The various mysteries which were yet to be unveiled. It's right ahead. Mo Sherwu is on a yacht over there. Mo Qinglong exclaimed as he pointed to a location on the left. Wang Xian gazed over. Up ahead, more than 20 yachts had docked in the seas, along with 2 huge fishing vessels. On the deck stood many martial artists, each staring at the fog ahead. Vaguely, an island appeared amidst the misty fog. Yet none of the ships around had dared to make a dash for the island, as if out of fear of something. As the yacht approached, the arrival of the group drew immediate attention from the nearby crowd. Some on board the other ships frowned as they looked over. "It's my seniors," Mo Sherwu said to the rest of the crowd. He was on another yacht with more than a dozen on board. "Are these the people you've gathered? We've made a pact. Everyone must go all out in order to make it inside. Otherwise, you are not qualified to enter the spiritual island," a young man said bluntly to Mo Sherwu. "That's for sure. All based on merit." Mo Sherwu chirped as a smile lifted his face gently. In one move, he hopped onto the yacht which ferried Wang Xian and gang. "Humph, just those few? I'm afraid they're going to perish in the sea," the young man said indifferently while he looked at Mo Sherwu from behind. To which, another young man swept his gaze across the yacht which had just arrived. He then looked back at his ship, where the yacht flag bearing a Thunderbolt logo flew high. Mo Sherwu's a formidable one. His seniors are likely inborn experts, not to be reckoned with. But regarding this spiritual island, the Lei family is bent on making it ours. He continued, it remains to be seen who will be the final one to make it inside." A group of young men sneered at the side. As Mo Sherwu leaped onto the yacht, he knelt down immediately to pay respects to Wang Xian. "Dragon King," he greeted. How are things going right now?" Wang Xian smiled in response and asked as he glanced at the fog ahead. Just then, a strange creature began to emerge briefly. With an elongated fishtail, it bore a grim face. It had a long front claw that resembled a 2-pronged fork, measuring about 3 meters long. A petrifying yet bizarre sea creature, perhaps. Chapter 312, Patrolling Yiksha 1. Hoo! At this moment, that creature let out a howl that propagated several thousands of meters. "What is that creature?" Wang Xian asked Mo Sherwu as he looked at the vague silhouette of a marine animal within the mist. "Dragon King, that's the patrolling Yiksha, a creature that existed in mythology." Mo Sherwu looked ahead and continued. According to records, there were immortal islands in the past. Some of these immortal islands could move above the sea. Some could hide themselves, and some even had divine beasts guarding them. Patrolling Yiksha is a type of guardian beast in these records. They stationed themselves in a sea region and patrolled the surrounding waters. Their intelligence is extremely high and they possess horrifying strength. As Mo Sherwu spoke and looked at the patrolling Yiksha, his expression turned gloomy. Many patrolling Yikshas are surrounding this spiritual island. Their strength is horrifying. When they are in the seas, even inborn experts have to be careful. Moreover, based on my discovery, this island isn't ordinary. It could be moved. Although the movements aren't significant, there's no doubt that it could be shifted. Some experts estimate that this was a floating island. Floating island. Wang Xian was taken aback and revealed a shocked expression. Floating island. This wasn't an island that floats in the skies, but on the surface of the seas. A stone would still sink when thrown into the sea. Yet, an island could actually float on the surface of the sea. That's truly magical. The entire island spanned several dozens of kilometers. A cruise sank after trying to enter the white mist, but was wrecked by the patrolling yikshaws around the island. The number of patrolling yikshaws wouldn't be less than 30. Mo Sherwu continued his introduction of the island. What's the situation now? It's going to be nighttime soon. What are they waiting for? Wang Xian looked at the sky before turning to the 20-odd ships a short distance from him. Based on what an expert has said, when night falls, the surrounding white mist will disappear. Entering at night is far safer than trying to enter during the day. Mo Sherwu continued. When the moon rises and the white mist dissipates, all the ships will charge forward. At that time, occupying an area will be dependent on one's strength and luck. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. He looked to the patrolling yiksha, and a thought struck him suddenly. When you receive my order in a while, enter the spiritual island immediately. I'll go handle the patrolling yikshas, Wang Xian said to them. He removed the watch from his wrist and dived into the sea. Yes, young master. Bam. When Wang Xian dived into the sea, he noticed the members of the Dragon Palace were hiding in the depths of the sea. He turned to his left and looked over. He saw several human figures within the sea, and they were looking at the spiritual island. They must be water attribute cultivators, Wang Xian thought to himself. Therefore, he did not turn into a dragon immediately and instead swam deeper towards the bottom of the sea. When he reached a depth of approximately 110 meters, night had fallen. Below the surface, it was completely dark. Looking down, one would feel that the seabed was within an abyss. However, day or night had no difference for Wang Xian, considering his current strength. He swam and met up with the members of the Dragon Palace, after which he stood on the Prime Minister Turtle. Greetings, Dragon King. The group of Dragon Palace members greeted him respectfully. Let's go. Wang Xian gestured for the Prime Minister Turtle to swim forward. Standing on the back of the Prime Minister Turtle, he looked at the spiritual island. Rumble. Prime Minister Turtle moved his huge body and swam slowly towards the seabed. Soon, they entered the region that was previously shrouded in white mist. The moment he entered this region, Wang Xian instantly felt some marine animals staring at them. What horrifying senses! They discovered us the moment we entered this region. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and looked above him. From above, savage and fearsome patrolling yikshas charged towards them one after another. There were a total of 10 patrolling yikshas, and the largest of them all was approximately 4 meters. One of their arms resembled powerful weapons and was even longer than their bodies. Water flowed rapidly past their bodies. Hoo hoo hoo! Scram! A cry sounded. From the cry, Wang Xian understood that they were asking him to scram. 10 patrolling yikshas stood in a row. Savageness gleamed in their eyes as they stared at Wang Xian and the group without fear. Patrolling yiksha, level 9. Extractable dragon energy, 38,756. Patrolling yiksha, level 10. Extractable dragon energy, 155,434. A level 10 and 9 level 9 patrolling yikshas. Wang Xian showed contempt on his face as he stood on the back of Prime Minister Turtle, looking down on the patrolling yikshas. Let us into the island or die. Rumble. As Wang Xian spoke, Prime Minister Turtle, Roving Heavens, and other members of the Dragon Palace stared harshly at the patrolling yiksha ahead of them. From them, horrifying vibes started emanating. Everyone is forbidden from entering. The 10 patrolling yikshas did not back off. At this moment, one of the patrolling yikshas drew a conch out suddenly. Hoo hoo hoo! A faint but rapid voice sounded, and propagated several kilometers through the sea. One could even hear it from the surface of the sea. What's that sound? On the sea surface, the crowd heard the rapid voices on their ships and were baffled. Look, the patrolling Ikshas within the white mist have disappeared. They have dived into the sea. Patrolling Ikshas are highly intelligent. Can it be that they knew we would be charging in and therefore are thinking of ambushing us? The crowd was doubtful and turned solemn. At this moment the moon had risen. Faint moonlight shrouded the sea surface, revealing the mysterious spiritual island gradually. With their enhanced sight as martial artists, they could vaguely see an exceptionally beautiful island bristling with life that was surfacing on the sea surface. All of their eyes were burning with thrill and desire. Nonetheless, they didn't dare to charge forward at this moment. At this very moment, approximately 100 patrolling Ikshas had gathered in front of Wang Xian below the sea. At the forefront was a 6-meter-tall patrolling Iksha. His arms acted like powerful weapons. When he stood up, one could see he had a long fishtail. Water flowed above his arms as horrifying vibes were emitted from it. "Get out of here, or die!" The powerful patrolling Iksha at the forefront glowered at Wang Xian and said. Wang Xian smiled and looked at the crowd of patrolling Ikshas. Among them, there were 10 level 10, while the rest were level 9. Patrolling Ikshas. Not bad, not bad. Wang Xian scanned across the 100 patrolling Ikshas as he rubbed his chin. Based on mythology, patrolling Ikshas were responsible for patrolling the vicinity of the Dragon Palace. Since the Dragon Palace was about to be built, these patrolling Ikshas appeared at the right time as they could become the patrolling guards for the Dragon Palace. Nope. When I build my Dragon Palace, they should be called Patrolling Dragon Shah. The name still sounds a little weird. Surrender or die. Chapter 313. Yiksha subdued, off to the spiritual island. As Wang Xian's voice blasted through the sea, an overwhelming aura of dragon power buried the crowd of Yikshas beneath. Powerful forces from roving heavens, Prime Minister Turtle, Roving Girl, and Roving Lobster aided in the overwhelming aura. "Scram or perish," the centermost Yiksha warned, waving its weapon-like arm. The Yiksha carried forth a powerful surge of water and aimed it straight at Wang Xian and gang. The Yiksha showed not the slightest fear towards them. "Scram or perish," the Yiksha warned again. In synchronized movements, the remaining Yikshas and their leader aimed the weapons in their arms directly towards Wang Xian and gang. With actions so uniform, they could pass off as an army. "Good. Splendid." Wang Xian complimented. Admiring their discipline, he looked on at the Yikshas with increasing satisfaction. As he did, he swung an arm and ordered, "Get a hold on them before subduing them all." "At your command, Dragon King," replied Roving Heavens along with the rest of the Dragon Palace members. With an electrifying aura, they lunged directly at the Yikshas. Wang Xian had no regard for the Yikshas, even with the presence of a level 11 expert amongst their group of 100. Based on the current abilities of the Dragon Palace members, the Devil Division, led by Roving Heavens along with the 9 venomous sea snakes, would suffice in wiping the Yikshas out. "Intruders shall die," the Yikshas roared once again in unison. With knife-like coordination, they attacked Roving Heavens and the gang head-on. "Ha!" The group of Yikshas jeered as they swung their arm weapons at the same moment. A water swirl formed atop the forks on their arms and spiraled at frightening speeds. Virum. Roving Heavens let out a roar. With a baton in hand, he charged at the level 11 Yiksha standing at the center in a bid to attack. Bam! Unfazed, the Yiksha struck back at Roving Heavens head-on with his weapon-like arms. Ack, 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 ack! Screeched the crowd of devil monkeys. As they maneuvered underwater, darting like bouts of devil shadows, they seized at the 100 or so Yikshas. But the Yikshas responded with neither panic nor confusion. Instead, they stood single file like experienced warriors and extended their arm-like weapons. Boom! A terrifying force from their weapons surged like massive currents and headed straight for the devil monkeys. They condensed the flows into a mass, and as the sea waters tumbled, a sea spear was formed. As it emerged, it struck at the devil monkeys like an impending crisis. "Water Veil, restore peace to the seas," a spirited voice commanded. It was Queen Clam. As she flapped the shells on her sides and swung her arms, streaks of blue water flow gathered in front of the devil monkeys. Her shell was slowly turning sapphire, and it appeared more translucent than before. "Let there be calm seas and fair winds," the 9 venomous sea snakes ordered. Rattling their tails, they opened their 9 mouths wide. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew amidst the ocean and surged towards the waves, which were crashing toward the devil monkeys. Swoosh! Together, the water veil and powerful gale managed to combat the attacks by the Ikshas. But even so, the facial expressions on 100-odd Ikshas remained constant. Under the leader's command, the Ikshas initiated another attack, with the group changing stance in one swift movement. Brandishing their weapons and aided by a strong force from the waters, the Ikshas charged forth at Roving Heavens and the devil monkeys. In one sweep, the force glided through the seas. Like a giant halberd, it scoured through everything in its path. Such a powerful attack. To think that 100 Ikshas can make defense this hard for the devil division, Wang Xian uttered in shock as he continued watching the 100-odd Ikshas. The Yakshas had attacked in a very synchronized manner. As they did, they induced the surrounding waters along to aid in attack. This heightened their terrifying prowess. With only a couple more level 10 experts than the Devil Division, the group of 100-odd Yakshas had curbed the attack of the division, which had a strength of 800. Had it not been for the help from Queen Clam and 9 venomous sea snakes, many devil monkeys would have been seriously injured from the attack earlier. "You have a death wish," Roving Heavens snarled. As he watched his suppressed juniors, he snapped in a grimace. Baring his fangs, his body lit up in appalling devil flames as he flung himself towards the Yakshas. Roar, roar, roar. The devil monkeys howled as the ferocity in them was ignited. Hair standing on end, they flashed their sharp claws and pounced along. "TSK, TSK, TSK!" hissed the 9 venomous sea snakes nearby, slithering with increasing speed as they did. Staring coldly at 9 level 10 Yakshas with their eyes, they charged forth at them in a flash. With one leap, Roving Lobster joined in on the attack. Using both of its giant pincers, it snipped away at the Yakshas. All manpower from the Dragon Palace was out in full force. In an instant, the surrounding seas cowered under the majestic awe of the divine dragon. Schools of fish nearby swam far away, scrambling for safety. As they cleared the area, the sea appeared all the more vast and deep, which added on to the spookiness. What's happening? Why are there bouts of terrifying forces surging from the sea? It's giving me the shudders. One shrieked. Such threatening force. What exactly is happening up front? Another quivered. Didn't they say that this is the historical site of a level 1 ancient sect? Why would there be waves of such terrifying forces otherwise? A third gulped. On the boats in surrounding waters, all people on board cast their glance towards the waters. With the horrendous force surging and the irregular waves, it set everyone out in fear and trepidation. On the deck of a large fishing vessel stood several elders. As they looked down at the seas, their eyes began to fill with dread. To think that a tidal wave had reversed in direction. This tremendous force is no doubt terrifying. As for the creature beneath, it must be from the Dan realm at the very least. The ocean, how appalling! An elder shook with a heavy look. What should we do, then? Are we still vying for this spiritual island? Don't forget that this is an ancient first-class island we're looking at. Who knows? The spiritual medicine from its garden could even be on par with those from spiritual medicine gardens of the saint class, another elder reminded. With burning desire in his eyes, he continued, What's more, given that this is a first-class force, they're bound to possess treasures. In ancient times, all the sects and clans were either located within famous mountains and rivers, or on peninsula islands, idolized by all as the land of the sacred. An ancient first-class force is now on par with a current sacred sect. Hence, we cannot give this spiritual island up. Just wait a while longer, another elder concluded. Despite the apprehension owing to the force surging from the deep waters, no one was willing to give up in the face of such an alluring spiritual island. Waiting in silence, they were all bidding for their opportunity. Young master has given his orders. Charge! A voice shouted. Meanwhile, Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan, and Mo Shu were on a yacht when they heard the command. Hearts raced, and the trio locked eyes for a split moment before glancing ahead. With one leap, they dashed for the spiritual island. Someone made their move, one shouted. Having a death wish. It's akin to courting doom. Such terrifying forces are coming from the seas. Yet they still dare to charge over. We'll see. They'll be killed by the marine creatures soon enough. A second mocked. It's Mo Sherwu and the gang he has called. This fellow fights pretty well, but it appears he's not very good with his intellect. The third commented. Just as well. Someone to help us lead the way, another bystander cheered. As the trio charged forward, the crowd looked on with astonishment, but continued nonetheless in anticipation. In moments, however, they were met with surprise and bewilderment as their faces dimmed. They managed faintly. With racing speed, the trio flew inside the island parameters, eventually landing on the island without the slightest impediment. Chapter 314. The spiritual island that was overrun by monster. They got in. They actually got in. How can this be? Where are the patrolling ikshas? Why didn't the guarding animals under the sea surface appear? This is bad. Now that 3 men have entered, should we follow them in? At this moment, the 3 other forces that had gathered in the vicinity were stuck in a dilemma. 3 men had charged towards the spiritual island. In the end, they were able to get in easily without any obstruction. This embarrassed the other 3 forces. These 3 forces were all first-class forces. They were lay family from Modu, Wind God sect, from Doffing Mountain and Water Separation Island from the Sea Islands. When they saw Mo Qinglong and the other 2 men enter the spiritual island, they were bitter and furious. We can't continue to wait like this. Otherwise, all the good stuff will be taken away by those 3 people. We have to get through too. On a huge fishing boat, several old men's eyes shimmered. In that case, who will test it out first? Another old man seemed conflicted. He looked down at the sea surface and still felt heart-wrenching powers from the bottom of the sea. Since the 3 of them got through without any trouble, we shouldn't be in danger either. Elders, we can first test it out with a yacht. If the yacht isn't wrecked, we will not be in any danger, said a middle-aged man while frowning. Under such circumstances, no one had the guts to charge forward despite seeing others entering the spiritual island. Try it out immediately, the old man from Lay family ordered. Subsequently, a yacht charged towards the spiritual island. When the other 2 forces saw it, they frowned. They were also waiting. Once their safety could be verified, they would charge ahead immediately. Charge! When the yacht reached the spiritual island, the surrounding crowd could no longer hold back their urge as they charged rapidly towards the spiritual island. In an instant, a few hundred men flew over directly. At this very moment, Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan, and Mo Shu, who had entered the spiritual island first, were carefully observing the ruins of an ancient sect. All of them were shocked. White flowers were grown around the entire spiritual island, and these flowers were producing a faint mist. The surrounding white mist had all originated from these flowers. The entire spiritual island was beautiful. However, weeds had overrun some places, as no humans had lived on it for a long time. On a stone path, Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan and Mo Shu looked in shock at what was before them. A footprint. It was a huge footprint that was approximately 4 meters long and was deeply imprinted on the ground. What kind of animal would have left this footprint? How can it be so horrifying? Mo Qinglong and the group looked ahead and discovered other huge footprints that were all around the entire spiritual island. Around the footprints were several sets of human remains. Some had decomposed, leaving only bones behind. Many of these bones had cracked. It was clear that this was caused by huge physical impacts. Can it be that this spiritual island on the sea encountered an attack by terrifying animals in the sea, leading to the annihilation of the entire sect? The three of them were baffled. They looked to the side and found several collapsed brick houses around them. Some were even more than 50% destroyed. It was clear that these houses were knocked down by a terrifying animal. Mo Qinglong and the group turned their attention ahead. In the middle of the island, there was a huge training ground. Before the training ground was a row of buildings. These buildings were 15 to 16 meters tall. However, even the tops of these buildings had large holes. Who would have expected the entire spiritual island to actually be wrecked by a horrifying animal in the sea? Mo Qinglong was shocked. He moved and approached the central region of the island rapidly. Based on common understanding, the central location was where most treasures were kept. Moreover, spiritual medicine gardens would typically be placed in the central region. Split up and search for treasures. Mo Qinglong instructed Mo Yuan and Mo Shu before diving towards a building. No one knew how long ago the sect on the spiritual island had been annihilated. All the buildings had clear signs of weathering. When they entered the room, they immediately started searching it. This is a depository of books. All the books here are really precious and valuable. Mo Qinglong scanned across the room, after which he headed for another room. A depository of books wasn't particularly useful for them. This must be the accommodation of the higher management of the sect. Mo Qinglong entered another room. After looking around, he immediately started searching the room. At this moment, Mo Yuan shouted, "Master, the spiritual medicine garden is here!" Mo Qinglong moved and charged over immediately. Spiritual medicine gardens typically contain the most precious resources of a sect. The spiritual medicine garden was located at the back. At that place, there was a pond that spanned approximately a dozen mu. Within the pond and around the pond, various spiritual medicines were planted. Beside the spiritual medicine garden were several sets of remains. There were 4 huge footprints in the spiritual medicine garden. A substantial number of spiritual grasses were dead, but there were still several hundred tufts of spiritual grass that were still emitting spiritual energy. It was especially so for the huge lotus flower in the middle of the pond. The lotus flower was the size of a basin. Amidst the darkness of the night, it was still glowing in white light. The middle of the lotus flower was an entirely white lotus seed pod with countless lotus seeds in it. One could easily tell that the lotus flower, lotus seed pod, and lotus seeds weren't ordinary. Mo Qinglong looked across the spiritual medicine garden, and his eyes lit up. Plucking these spiritual medicines away will be a waste. The best option is to let them continue growing here before plucking their fruits. Mo Qinglong looked around him. The most precious of them all should be the white lotus flower in the middle of the pond and a spiritual tree beside it. That spiritual tree had already reached a height of 6 to 7 meters. Based on Mo Qinglong's understanding, this spiritual tree was known as green fruit tree. This spiritual tree should have reached level 5 or 6. Therefore, it shouldn't be called a spiritual medicine, but a spiritual tree instead. Other than that, there were at least 50 to 60 tufts of level 4 and 5 spiritual grass, and over 100 tufts of level 3 and below spiritual grass. Perhaps it was because this spiritual island had been deserted for 500 to 600 years or for an even longer time. With no one harvesting these spiritual grasses, there were a lot of them around. The value of these spiritual grasses alone is astronomical. Mo Qinglong and the group thought to themselves, I found it first. Get lost. I held it in my hands first. Scram, or I'll kill you. Do you think my lay family is afraid of your water separation island? At this moment, noises came from behind them. Several hundred people from Water Separation Island, Lay Family, and the Wind God sect had dashed over. The quiet spiritual island became raucous instantly. Although they were shocked by the humongous footprints that were left behind, they were getting frenzied over the treasures they were seeing. The spiritual medicine garden is here. At this moment, a few young men dashed over. Seeing the spiritual grass in front of Mo Qinglong and the group, they were thrilled. Chapter 3:15, Joining Forces. The spiritual medicine garden is here, a voice boomed. As it sounded across the entire spiritual island, all bickering and commotion elsewhere came to a standstill. In an instant, figures could be seen darting over at electrifying speeds. Across the sky, 9 inborn experts soared through the air. When they saw the various treasures in the spiritual medicine garden, their eyes blazed with desire. With a shrug, they hopped onto the fringes of the garden. A level 6 spiritual medicine. Goodness! To think it's the level 6 white valley lotus. Aha! A ripe white valley lotus. One exclaimed in elation. A green fruit tree. Such a level 6 tree can produce 6 level 5 spiritual fruits in a year, while the over-ripened fruits have fallen and turned into compost. Another said excitedly, dozens of level 5 spiritual grasses, and plenty more of those of level 3 to 4, a third cheered. A crazed look swept across the 9 inborn experts. As they scanned their surroundings, their cold stares were overcome by burning desire at the sight of the spiritual medicine aplenty. Should they be able to obtain these spiritual medicine, it would no doubt double the prowess of their clans right away. What's more, they may even attain sacred sect status given long-term cultivation of this entire plot, but only if they could possess it. This was especially so, as this spiritual island happened to be a rare floating island. This meant that the island was able to move along the ocean, making it an ideal spiritual land. In addition, there were white flowers growing along the perimeters, which emitted a misty fog. Aside from camouflaging effects, the flora could also help gather spiritual energy. Amidst the oceans, this piece of land was surrounded by unpolluted air. Hence, its concentration of spiritual energy definitely outweighed those from the cities. The inborn experts pondered as their eyes twinkled. Meanwhile, disciples of the various forces gathered behind their clan experts, keeping a vigilant watch over the surroundings. In the brief fight earlier, some of these disciples had already sustained injuries. To compete based on merits? A middle-aged elder asked blandly. With a glum face, he cast his glance towards the 6 inborn experts from the Lay family and Water Separation Island, to which the inborn experts kept mum, as they continued eyeing each other in order to assess one another's abilities. The strengths of the Lay family, Water Separation Island, and Wind God sect were neck and neck. This time around, each of them was represented by 3 inborn experts. Perhaps variations existed between individual inborn experts. Yet, should they really start fighting, the outcome remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: some of them would perish. The 9 inborn experts continued to observe each other, and in an instant, tension filled the atmosphere. Meanwhile, the disciples crowding behind gripped their weapons with a heavy look. A fight could break out any moment now. I don't think it would do any of us any good should we start battling it out now, unless any of you are confident in annihilating the other party. Otherwise, it's bad news to all, even if only one should escape. An elder from Water Separation Island chipped in as he surveyed the 6 inborn experts. When the 3 leveled forces really started fighting, it would not be surprising should they end up with a Pyrrhic victory. Whereas if only one party should win marginally and should information about the spiritual island be divulged, then they would be bound to be attacked by other sects and clans. Who knows? They may even face being seized by sacred sects. All this for one floating island, given its high value. In fact, it was so superior it could make a good sect ground. Giving thought to his analysis, the inborn experts from the Lay family and Wind God sect agreed with the elder from Water Separation Island. An equal division, then? An elder from the Lay family asked as he squinted, testing the reaction of others. How are we going to do that? This floating island is one huge gem. Smiling, the elder from Water Separation Island replied, How about this? We from the Water Separation Island will take the floating island alone, while you can have everything else. Wishful thinking, an elder from the Lay family snapped. The worth of the entire floating island was no less than the spiritual medicine garden, the secret manual it held, and the like combined. Just then the elder from Water Separation Island who spoke earlier uttered, Ever thought of establishing a saint-class force? As he finished, the inborn experts from Wind God sect and Lay family could not help but flinch. They took one look at the crowd around them before turning towards the spiritual grass which was nestled in the garden and breathed somewhat heavily. Should the three parties join forces and give it a little more than a decade, they could really end up setting a saint-class force for all we know. A sacred sect, one immensely massive entity. But to have three forces coming together to set up one sacred sect is a huge matter, where interests are complicated and stakes are high. It would take days to sort everything out. What we'll have to do now is to hide this spiritual island, to keep it away from the other forces. As for its allocation, the three forces shall discuss it thereafter, an elder from the Lay family suggested steadily. All right, one nodded. Agreed, another seconded the thought. Instead of fighting and vying ourselves to our deaths, we might as well join forces. The 9 inborn experts laughed. To them, this was the best choice possible. Gentlemen, it appears that you've yet to ask for our take, Mo Qinglong interrupted. He was with Mo Yuan and Mo Shu meanwhile. As he spoke, the trio frowned and scanned the crowd. Ha! Oops, we've forgotten about the few outsiders. An elder joked as he surveyed the trio. Outsiders? We made a pact back then, to inform the forces that joined later, and split the share of this spiritual island. Mo Shu rebuked while peering at a few young men from the three forces. True enough, we've indeed made a pact, to vie for the treasures based on our own merits. A voice argued. That's right, and the treasures are right here. Take them with you if you've got what it takes. Another challenged. Haha, Mo Shu, if you've got what it takes, you may take all the treasures here with you right away. But if you don't, a third gloated. Thereafter, several young men from each of the three forces stepped out and smirked as they eyed Mo Shu. Show us what you've got. Otherwise, you're not fit to get an equal share of the treasures as us. A young man provoked once again, this time annoying Mo Shu. You ingrates! Had I not rescued the few of you at the start, you fellows would have died at the hands of the Yikshaws long ago. Mo Shu snapped as he glared at them. Humph! Weren't you also protecting yourself by saving us? Don't take the moral high ground. A young man criticized as he stared right back. Folks, how would you suggest we handle these three? An elder of the Lay family asked the inborn expert sarcastically. Vying for the treasures with us leaves us with no choice but to strike, an elder announced as he stepped forward with a faint grin. Gradually, 3 experts from the Lay family and Water Separation Island began to follow suit. They had their eyes fixed on Mo Qinglong and gang with a deathly stare, to which Mo Qinglong and the gang responded with a burdened look. Chapter 316 The Roar of the Devil Monkey. On the spiritual island, 1 inborn expert from Lay family, Water Separation Island, and Wind God sect respectively stepped forward and looked at Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan, and Mo Shu with contempt. They walked over slowly with their weapons in their hands, glowing in a chilling light. You guys must be courting death. Mo Qinglong's eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at the three inborn experts, walking towards them. Devilish aura started circling around his body. Mo Yuan transformed his fingers into claws and stared at the approaching group harshly. Hee, devilish cultivators. It seems like we are going to eradicate devils for the benefit of the world. An old man turned solemn after noticing the dense devilish aura being emitted from their bodies. "Kill the three of them!" an old man shouted. Subsequently, he jumped ahead and charged towards Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan, and Mo Shou. The three inborn experts reached Mo Qinglong and the group in an instant. The stifling pressure of an inborn expert was mixed with their dense killing intent. The three inborn experts had no plans to hide their aura and killing intent at all. At this moment, Wang Xian, who was on the seabed, did not know about the intense battle that was going on at the spiritual island. Wang Xian smiled faintly and looked ahead. In front of him, 100 patrolling Ikshas were pinned down on the floor with grave injuries under the attacks from the Devil Division, 9 venomous sea snakes, roving lobster, and roving girl. "Surrender to me, or die." Wang Xian stood on the back of Prime Minister Turtle, shrouded his dragon power towards all the patrolling Ikshas, and spoke coldly. "I surrender." The leader of the patrolling Ikshas looked at Wang Xian and the group in horror. Gradually he lifted his head. "Great. This will be the wisest choice you make in your lifetime. The Dragon Palace shall be separated into 9 divisions in the future. The Devil Division has since been established. Today, I shall confer on you, leader of patrolling Ikshas, as the Dragon Guard Division. You shall patrol the 4 seas and guard the Dragon Palace. I shall also bestow upon you the name of Roving Yiksha." As Wang Xian spoke, he waved his hands. Drops of essence, blood, entered the patrolling Ikshas' heads as Wang Xian smiled. Devil Division was the main battle strength against the enemies. As for the Dragon Guard Division, they would be responsible for patrolling the surroundings of the Dragon Palace and protecting it. Although there were only 100 patrolling Ikshas, the strength and battle prowess they demonstrated when they worked together were incomparably horrifying. Moreover, they could move extremely fast in the water. Even Wang Xian was astonished at their speed. In water, they possessed a speed that even the 9 venomous sea snakes couldn't match. However, if the 9 venomous sea snakes were above the sea surface, their speed would be a lot faster than it was in the seas. "Thank you, Dragon King." "Greetings, Dragon King." The leader of the patrolling Yikshas bowed down in a unique manner as he remarked. "Greetings, Dragon King." The surrounding patrolling Yiksha followed, kneeling down respectfully as they remarked. "This is the cultivation art for the water divine dragon. Cultivate diligently in the future." A thought was sent into their minds. Subsequently, Wang Xian looked at the floating island. Bring me to the bottom of the floating island to take a look." Wang Xian said to Roving Yiksha immediately. "Yes, Dragon King." After absorbing the essence, blood of the divine dragon, a flash of energy beamed from the eyes of the Roving Yiksha. The speed of water flowing on his body became even quicker. "Dragon King, this is our old nest. We have been living under this island." After arriving at the side of the island, the Roving Yiksha pointed to the bottom of the island. Wang Xian looked across inquisitively. The base of the floating island wasn't connected to the seabed. Moreover, a type of plant was growing on the bottom of the island. This plant was black in color, similar to the color of the patrolling Yikshas. They were densely packed and covered the entire bottom of the floating island. Moreover, this type of plant wasn't just a layer. Instead, there were several layers of them which formed empty spaces each layer. Wang Xian was surprised to see a 1-meter-tall yiksha moving within these spaces. This is our nest and also our food." Roving Yiksha swam over, scraped a part of the plant using his weapon-like arm and handed it to Wang Xian. Wang Xian received it and realized it had strong buoyancy. So this plant is the reason why the island floats and can even move. Wang Xian was in awe of the mysterious things of the seas. There were all kinds of strange animals in the sea. If I convert this island to my accommodation, wouldn't it be? Wang Xian's eyes lit up. He just had to modify this floating island a little to convert it to a mobile base. In fact, he could even pull this floating island to the Bohai Sea. If he wished to go to other areas, he could also shift it to the Pacific Ocean or the Indian Ocean. A mobile fortress and base. Wang Xian's eyes burned with enthusiasm. You guys, wait for me here. I'm going to take a look at the spiritual island. After finishing his words, Wang Xian moved and swam towards the spiritual island. As the ruins of an ancient sect, there should be lots of treasures on it. Moreover, he had informed Mo Qinglong and the group to search for treasures while he was under the water. Wang Xian believed they would have obtained lots of spiritual treasures by now. The rewards this time are indeed handsome. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile and arrived on the spiritual island. Rumble. TSK, how dare you guys injure our lay family's people? Trying to grab these spiritual medicines and spiritual treasures with just the three of you? You guys must be courting death. However, he heard a furious roar that propagated through the entire spiritual island the moment he landed on shore. After which, the sounds of collision erupted. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and his expression turned cold. Cough, cough. All of you shall die. A weak voice sounded. It was the voice of Mo Qinglong. Haha, kill us? We will kill you right now. A brazen voice sounded once again. Still thinking of getting the treasures? Wishful thinking. Even if you were a pinnacle inborn expert, we would still kill you. It seems like someone can't wait to die. Murderous intent gleamed in Wang Xian's eyes. Based on what Mo Shiru had said, all treasures found should be obtained through their respective strengths. This was the agreement for the split of treasures on the spiritual island. In Wang Xian's opinion, no one in the three forces would be a match for Mo Qinglong or Mo Yuan. Based on the voice of Mo Qinglong, he was clearly injured now. In that case, there was only one possibility. A group of people had attacked them together. Rumble. Wang Xian tapped lightly on the water surface. Roving Heavens immediately raised his head above the surface. Follow me. Roving Heavens gave his orders before jumping onto the shore of the spiritual island. Below him, 800 devil monkeys followed closely behind. They were like savage beasts from the bottom of the water as they surfaced from the seas. Every single one of them had an intense, devilish flame emitting from their body. Roar! Roving Heavens walked beside Wang Xian and let out a cry. With his 6-meter-tall figure, he was a towering figure beside Wang Xian. He held a golden rod in his hand. Behind him, 800 devil monkeys jumped onto the shores of the spiritual island. The horrifying auras from them masked the moon in the sky. Let's go! Wang Xian stood up gradually. The group of devil monkeys spread out before charging forward rapidly with Wang Xian. Gur, gur, gur! As the devil monkeys growled, the entire spiritual island trembled. Chapter 317. By Merits. Gur, gur, gur! The devil monkeys growled. The entire spiritual island trembled as their voices blasted through the air. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes briefly as he headed towards the center of the spiritual island. With him was Roving Heavens. With a wooden rod measuring 5 to 6 meters resting on his shoulders, he followed alongside Wang Xian with a ferocious look. What's that noise? A voice quivered. Just then, inborn experts from the Lei family, Water Separation Island, and Wind God sect were at the spiritual medicine garden when they heard the growling of the devil monkeys, to which their faces winced as they darted their eyes around hastily. Seems like animals growling, and in large numbers, one panicked. Don't tell me monsters have ascended on Spiritual Island, the second guessed. That can't be. How could sea monsters get on the island? They must be growling in the waters, but do not approach, another reassured. Those hair-raising footprints on the island, could they have come from the same monster? A voice asked. As it was night time, other than a casting of faint moonlight, they were surrounded by pitch dark on this lone island in the middle of the sea. Peering into the distance around them, it felt like they were situated amidst an abyss. Given such circumstances, disciples of the three forces could not help but shiver, especially with the growling earlier. The way it sounded and felt had petrified them all the more. "Something's approaching!" an inborn expert cried out, jerking his head to the right while doing so. "Many of them," another inborn expert added as he turned right as well. "What?" the rest of the disciples behind exclaimed, taking one deep gulp. They too looked in the same direction in utter panic. They were not being timid. Instead, having witnessed the yikshaws around the spiritual island, along with the alarming footprints inland, it became too overwhelming. They were already in fear of the creatures out at sea. "Ha! Like I've said, all of you shall die. All of you." Voices laughed. It was Emo, Qinglong, Emo Yuan, and Emo Shou who were lying at a side, resting. They shot up excitedly upon hearing the growls. Bearing with their physical pains the best they could, they swept their glance coldly across the three forces ahead. "Shut up!" an inborn expert snapped as he eyed the trio. With the swing of an arm, he blasted a bout of energy towards the trio. Bam, bam. The energy struck directly at Emo Qinglong and gang, which sent them flying 7 to 8 meters back before crashing on the floor. Had it not been for their strong constitution, they would have long been killed by the blows. "Who are you trying to scare? Fear not. Even if the sea creatures should ascend on the island, their combat abilities would diminish greatly," an inborn expert assured. As he did, he raised his long sword, which was flickering with laser lights. Inhaling deeply, the disciples crowding around clutched onto their weapons. Gur-gur! As faint, deep growls which sounded like panting approached closer by the second, they sent a faint tremor across the grounds. Several hundred from the three forces gazed intently at the area ahead. Boom, boom, boom. "It has appeared," someone announced. "It's coming," another yelled. With a murderous demeanor, all men from the three forces braced themselves. They looked ahead at the shadows, which were gradually emerging. Swish! Waving an arm, an inborn expert lit up the sky ahead with a blinding flame. Boom! The flame also revealed what was in front of them. At the sight of the figures ahead, everyone stared with eyes wide in shock. Under the bright lights, a group of creepy but human-like creatures emerged from about 500 meters ahead. They were moving towards the crowd, slowly and steadily. They were mammoth-like in size, reaching beyond 2 meters in height, with the tallest standing at almost 6 meters. They were also surrounded by balls of black gases winding around their bodies. What are those?" an inborn expert muttered in a low voice as he looked ahead with a cringing face. There were too many of these black, human-like creatures, so much so that they had way overnumbered the crowd of disciples. "Some of them look like monkeys," an inborn expert commented. While he squinted at the creatures for a closer look, he gripped his weapon more tightly. "Fear not. They're just creatures similar to the water monkeys." An inborn expert from the Lei family signaled to the disciples behind. As the two sides were closing in at about 200 meters, Wang Xian could see Emo Qinglong and gang lying by the side. "Who is it? Who gave you the audacity to attack my men?" Wang Xian asked the group of three forces as he eyed them indifferently. Surprised by the noise, the crowd immediately threw their gaze over in Wang Xian's direction. There's someone in there," a voice questioned. "To think there's someone across who's controlling the group of creatures," another asked. Only the unknown would be feared. They were actually more relieved than not when they realized that the group of creatures was under the control of a human. An inborn expert from the Lei family swept his gaze past the group of devil monkeys. With eyes narrowed, he tightened his fists. "Brother, this is Elder Lay here. I think there must be some misunderstanding between us. I seek your understanding. Should we have offended you in any way?" The elder said to Wang Xian, "I'm asking you, who gave you guys the courage to attack my men?" Wang Xian questioned again, ignoring Elder Lay, this time in an eerily low pitch. With a change of stance, 3 devil monkeys scrambled over to Mo Qinglong and gang and lifted them off the ground. "Young master, the 3 forces here have made an alliance. They challenged us to take the things here away, based on merits." Mo Qinglong reported to Wang Xian with a pale face. "Humph." Wang Xian nodded in acknowledgement. This was followed by a powerful bout of the Azure Dragon's energy, which was channeled into the trio's bodies, healing them as it went. "By merits, huh? If that's the case, we'll go by merits then," Wang Xian concluded. He looked casually at the 3 forces as he nodded, and continued, "If that's the case, we'll play by your rules." "Huh." The crowd from the 3 forces frowned. An elder from Water Separation Island contemplated, while his facial expression changed in tandem with his thoughts. He trailed off. "Brother, you possess strong powers, so you're qualified to a share of the spiritual treasures on this island." "That's right, we're willing to share the spiritual treasures here with you," another added. "We acknowledge your powers, so that makes you qualified," a few elders patronized. "But you guys are not." Wang Xian cut them off even before they could end their sentences. With that, he ordered swiftly, "Kill them." "Ak, ak, ak." Just as Wang Xian concluded his sentence, Roving Heavens lifted his head and roared towards the sky. The long rod which rested on his shoulders crashed onto the ground. Boom! With a low rumble, Roving Heavens stared ahead with its eyes bloodshot. Slowly but steadily, it uttered in human language, "Kill! Kill!" All around, the devil monkeys complimented loud growls, followed by a gust of demonic aura purging out of their bodies. Boom! As they transformed into numerous black shadows, they swooped straight at the hundreds from the 3 forces. Chapter 318. Zhan Lu and Hao Zhong. What horrifying vibes! They are so powerful. When Roving Heavens led his devil division in the charge, the 8 inborn experts and the injured old inborn expert were shocked. The violent aura sent chills down their spines. Behind them, the disciples of the 3 forces trembled. Looking at the devil monkeys that were charging towards them, they felt as though they were facing a 10,000-strong army. Shit, they have multiple inborn realm existences among them. The inborn experts were shocked and felt fear grip them. Kill! An inborn expert gritted his teeth and swung the long sword he was holding upward. The glow of the sword spanned several meters and clashed towards Roving Heavens, who was at the front of the pack. Bam! Roving Heavens smashed his long metal rod towards that inborn expert domineeringly. The rod and longsword clashed. However, it was an exercise in futility, as the horrifying strength of Roving Heavens instantly broke the long sword in the hand of the inborn expert. Rumble! That inborn expert also exploded into pieces without putting up much resistance. What? How can this be possible? Seeing their companions being crushed into pieces, the group of inborn experts were petrified. How horrifying! Behind them, the crowd of disciples had witnessed what had just happened. None of them could help but shiver and take steps back. Roar! However, the group of devil monkeys charged into the crowd of the 3 forces. Arg! Soon, incessant cries sounded. Without putting up much resistance, they were completely crushed. Some of these inborn experts retreated in fear, seeing how Roving Heavens killed several inborn experts with a single strike each. They were desolated. "No, don't kill me. Please, don't kill me," shouted a desperate inborn expert. "Just like what you have done. This is the consequences of being weak." Wang Xian glanced coldly across them and remarked emotionlessly, since they had established these rules, they should follow them, even if the rules led to their death. Roar! Roving heavens jumped and charged ahead of the group of inborn experts in a horrifying manner. Crushing. Soon, cries started going quiet. Wang Xian looked around him. Young master. At this moment, Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan, and Mo Sherwu, who were recuperating, had recovered. They walked deferentially to Wang Xian and explained, "This is the spiritual medicine garden on the spiritual island. There are 2 level 6 spiritual medicines in it. One of them is White Valley Lotus, and the other is Green Fruit Tree." Mo Qinglong pointed at the 2 spiritual medicines while looking towards the buildings behind. "We have not searched the buildings. However, I believe there will definitely be lots of spiritual treasure in them. Let's go take a look." Wang Xian looked gleefully at the garden of spiritual medicine and grass. 2 level 6 spiritual medicines were more than what the Sui family had. As for the remaining level 4 and 5 spiritual grass medicine, Wang Xian was just a little worse off than the Sui family. "I'll be able to refine lots of elixir pills from these spiritual medicine and grass. At that time, I'll sell them in exchange for resources for the Dragon Palace. I should be able to gather most of the required resources." Wang Xian thought to himself. After a quick walk around the spiritual medicine garden, he headed towards the row of buildings behind it. Ka. When they entered the first room, the decayed wooden door fell to the ground instantly. Wang Xian looked around the room before pulling out different drawers enthusiastically, as though he was on a treasure hunt. This is a bottle for elixir pills? Wang Xian picked up a porcelain bottle. After opening it, he found that the elixir pills in it had already become scraps. He shook his head slightly and continued his search. Within the rooms, there were all kinds of weapons and jewelry made of jade. Wang Xian even found 2 hairpins made from top-tier jade. As they combed through the different rooms, Wang Xian and the group found a substantial amount of precious treasures. "Young master, there's an entrance leading underground here." At this moment, Mo Qinglong spoke to Wang Xian. Leading underground? Wang Xian's eyes lit up. He looked over and saw stairs leading underground, which he walked down immediately. This is the treasure room of the sect. When Wang Xian entered, he immediately saw various exquisite weapons and precious antiques. His eyes lit up instantly. There were paintings and calligraphy pieces hung on the walls. However, they had decayed and were thus valueless. Looking ahead, Wang Xian saw a sword hung on the wall. Below it, there was a zither on the table and a box made of jade. The 3 items were in a prominent position in the treasure room. Clearly, they were also the 3 most precious objects in this treasure room. Wang Xian's attention fell on the treasured sword hung on the wall. Wang. Just as Wang Xian contacted it, the treasured sword seemed to tremble. This gave Wang Xian a shock. He held the sword scabbard tightly. The entire sword was over 100 kilograms. For a long sword, this was really heavy. Wang Xian's eyes burned fervently. Holding the hilt of the sword lightly, he drew it out slowly. "Ka!" A crisp voice sounded. A dazzling gold light shimmered, and the sharpness of the sword made Wang Xian's arm tremble a little. "Great sword! What a sharp sword!" Wang Xian stared at the long sword. Suddenly, a message appeared in his mind. "Zhan Lu, level 10. Spiritual sword. This is a spiritual sword. Zhan Lu. Oh gosh, this is Zhan Lu." Wang Xian was shocked and thrilled. Zhan Lu was one of the 10 famed swords and regarded as the best among the 5 unparalleled famed swords. It was said that it was forged over 3 years using the best metal and within a cold spring. I had not expected this to be Zhan Lu, one of the 10 famed swords in history. This historic sword was forged by Oyezi. In that case, Oyezi must be a grandmaster blacksmith. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to forge a famed sword classified as one of the 10 famed swords. Wang drew the famed sword out of its scabbard completely. The bronze shade and the sharp aura around it were dazzling. Wang Xian moved his arm and injected metal attribute energy into it. Instantly, a sharp glow covered the sword. From a far place, one could already sense the sharpness of the sword. Great, great. Zhanlu is known to be the sword of benevolence, or the sword of the king. I can use this. Wang Xian laughed and put the sword aside, after which he looked to the zither below it. A zither that could be placed with Zhanlu would definitely not be ordinary. How zhong? The zither was made of wood. However, Wang Xian noticed that the wood showed no signs of decay despite the passing of a few hundreds of years. Moreover, it looked just like a new zither. Wang Xian moved slightly, and the information on the zither appeared in his mind too. How zhong, level 10. It's another level 10 spiritual object. This zither wasn't simple, but Wang Xian had no use for it and didn't know how to use it. Looking at this extremely stunning zither, Wang Xian picked it up to take a closer look. There's another long sword below the zither. Enchantment sword. It seems like the sword and the zither come in a set. This sword is level 9? What a great treasure! Chapter 319. The Wood Dragon Ball. Wang Xian was pleasantly surprised by the 2 spiritual treasures, namely the ancient sword of Zhanlu and the zither of Haozhong. Wang Xian had no use for the zither. On the other hand, he was very fond of the sword. He was not versed in swordplay. Nonetheless, the childhood dream of venturing the world and helping the underprivileged as a chivalrous swordsman remained rooted at the back of his mind. Knights looked suave as they wielded their long swords, their main choice of weapon. Swish, attack at lightning speed. Swash, take the counterstrike. Wang Xian grinned as he role-played with the sword, before his sight landed on the remaining jade box. A container carved out of emerald. Just the container alone is worth hundreds of millions. Wang Xian exclaimed as he picked it up for assessment. It was not particularly heavy, glowing in emerald green translucence. It looked incredibly invaluable. What's this? Wang Xian quizzed. As he opened the container, he was stunned at the sight of a jade green orb. A message flashed across his mind. Golden Rain Tree with Spiritual Bead. Level 10. Spiritual Bead of the Golden Rain Wood. A level 10 with Spiritual Bead. Wang Xian exclaimed with an astounded look. Wang Xian had come across many spiritual beads. For instance, the 2 spiritual flame balls of the Sui family, the 2 spiritual beads which he received from Flame Palace and Fire God denomination, as well as the ones which he had obtained right from the beginning. But this was the first time in which he came across a spiritual bead of another element. I can totally refine this level 10 spiritual bead and transform it into a Dragon Ball. A wood element Dragon Ball. Wang Xian uttered to himself. Picking it up gently, Wang made a light swirl of the spiritual bead on his palm. Drops of his essence, blood, seeped into the bead as it brimmed with life. Soon after, he opened his mouth and absorbed the spiritual bead into his body. Given the nourishment from his dragon energy, the wood element spiritual bead would transform into a wood dragon ball, which would also possess incredible powers. Furthermore, a wood dragon ball is able to improve land arability. By placing it on a spiritual medicine garden, it would greatly boost the growth of spiritual medicine within the area. A huge profit we've made this time. Wang Xian cheered as he admired the ancient sword of Zhanlu, wood element spiritual beads, along with other spiritual medicine and treasures of the like. This included the invaluable floating island. To him, these were priceless treasures. Thereafter, he flipped through the treasure trove once more, but could no longer find anything more valuable than the things which he had on hand. Wang Xian exited the treasure trove and continued searching in the neighboring rooms. As they came to a room within one of the central grand halls, Wang Xian and Gang discovered the name of the sect which had settled on this spiritual island. The island was named Wood Mirage, eponymous to the sect which had settled on it. Stone tablets line the rooms of the grand halls. Based on records carved on one of them, it stated that there were more than 2,000 disciples on this Wood Mirage Island. Amongst them was a Lao Tzu who had attained abilities of the Dan realm. An ancient first-class sect would be on par with a current sacred sect, Wang Xian said, trailing off. He sighed as he looked at information on the stone tablet. While making his way out, he was surprised by the giant footprint ahead, which measured close to 4 meters. A footprint up to 4 meters in length. The monster with this footprint must tower over 20 meters in height. It's enough to topple houses hovering at 16 meters. Wang Xian thought to himself as he assessed the extent of the damage around him. It was no surprise for a monster of over 20 meters in length to exist within the oceans. After all, the blue whale measured more than 30 meters, while sperm whale could reach over 20 meters. And these were known mammoths on Earth, so it only meant that there were still many out there which were yet to be discovered. While a blue whale may be gigantic, its combat abilities were much weaker, which made it an ordinary species. Dawn had arrived by the time Wang Xian completed his tour around the island. As he arrived at the sea, deep in thought, he was immediately received by Roving Yiksha. "Dragon King," Roving Yiksha greeted. "How do we go about moving this island? What's the fastest speed at which it could move?" Wang Xian asked Roving Yiksha in response. Now that he owned the island, Wang Xian was preparing to put the island through a series of refurbishments, turning the entire island into his ideal wonderland. For some future fun, seemed like a good choice. In this way, there was no future need for cruise ships, for he could simply ride on the island. That sounded really cool, just by the mere thought of it. Dragon King, moving the island requires aid from an external force. This can either be a powerful source of wind or tidal energy or physical strength, Roving Yiksha explained. He continued, "The island isn't too heavy, given that it's currently floating on the sea. Even we Yikshas are able to move it. That said, our moving speed will be very slow, as we can only shift it between the time of sunrise to sunset. Hence the distance moved will not be significant," he ended. Nodding in acknowledgement, Wang Xian gave a faint smile. So long as the island can be shifted quickly, he thought. There were only 100 Yikshas, but with the addition of the Devil Monkeys, Prime Minister Turtle and gang, it would definitely speed up the rate at which the island was shifted. "Prime Minister Turtle," Wang Xian called out, to which the former immediately moved over. Bowing his head, Prime Minister Turtle swam over to meet Wang Xian. "Subject here at your command." Prime Minister Turtle greeted. "Bring Roving Heavens and the rest along. We'll shift this island over to the one where the past dragon sect base stood." Wang Xian ordered Prime Minister Turtle. It would be good camouflage to have the island shifted over, which would make it easier for Wang Xian to order its refurbishment thereafter. "Yes, Dragon King." Prime Minister Turtle nodded, following which he gathered all the Dragon Palace members to set off immediately as they prepared to shift the floating island over to the Bohai Sea. Wang Xian assessed the speed at which the island was shifting. He was very pleased even though it was moving at less than half the speed of a speedboat. As the Dragon Palace welcomed more members, or with rising abilities of their manpower, moving the floating island would also become much faster, to the extent where one day, perhaps Prime Minister and Roving Girl alone would possess enough strength or prowess to move the island at hasty speed. With that, Wang Xian returned onto the island and headed for the spiritual medicine garden. He wanted to test his abilities in the art of refining elixir pills. He had just arrived in the garden when he bumped into Mo Yuan and Mo Qinglong. "Young master," the duo called out. "What is it?" Wang Xian asked. "Young master, the Dragonians have come with an urgent report. It's regarding the murderers of Mo Air-san and Mo Sani. We've got information Mo Yuan updated. Have they been found? Wang Xian questioned as he lifted an eyebrow. We've been informed that the selection day for the new saint and saintess of the Heavenly Sound sect has been brought forward. The ceremony will be held tomorrow and the day after, outside their sect ground entrance in the mountains, during which the murderers will appear. Mo Yuan answered. But many of their sect experts will be present then. The possibility of the Abyss to carry out a successful assassination is nil, Wang Xian said doubtfully. According to the rules of the sect, once the candidates for the saint and saintess have been confirmed, they'll be protected by inborn experts. It's only when the Abyss has surpassed the inborn status that they will be able to succeed, Mo Qinglong elaborated. Dragon King, should Master and I strike together right away, or should we continue waiting? Mo Yuan asked. Since they've been found, we'll make our move. Wang Xian replied as his eyes narrowed. The venue for the selection of the saint and saintess by the Heavenly Sound sect, you say? The one who's able to order the mission is presumably a strong competitor for the saintess, he continued. Let's exact our revenge today. Mo Yuan and Mo Qinglong chimed in together. Chapter 320, A Zither as a Gift, 1. Wang Xian didn't like things to drag on in whatever he did. Since he had verified where the culprit had appeared, he would want to resolve this matter quickly. Heavenly Sound sect. Wang Xian pondered for a while before asking, among the sacred sects, what's the strength level of the Heavenly Sound sect? Among the 8 sacred sects, the strength of the Heavenly Sound sect is ranked 5th in the underworld. It isn't particularly strong, but definitely not weak, replied Mo Qinglong. The 8 sacred sects and 5 sacred clans were the 13 strongest forces in China. Every force had a peerless expert that could send tremors to the entire underworld with a stomp of their foot. Heavenly Sound sect was located in Ning City. Wang Xian and the group had been there once. There wasn't any direct flight from Rivertown to Ning City. If they were to travel by car, it would take at least 8 to 9 hours. It's already past 2 in the morning. When we get to Ning City, it will be close to noon. Wang Xian looked at the time on his watch and had no intention of wasting any time. We will head there right away. Both of you come with me. Let Mo Shiwu attend to the matters of the spiritual island. Besides that, get the Abyss along. This time he was prepared to do this under the identity of the Abyss. Wang Xian still did not wish to enter into direct confrontation with a sacred sect. Moreover, with his current strength, he wouldn't be a match for a sacred clan unless they were in the seas. On land, his battle prowess was similar to a Dan realm expert. After witnessing the strength of Sui Huang from the Sui family, Wang Xian conjectured that there would also be Dan realm experts within these sacred sects and clans. Moreover, a sacred sect had a lot more inborn realm experts than Wang Xian. Since the Abyss was already known throughout the underworld, it didn't matter if their name got a little more publicity. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. Since eliminating the Dark Conjurers, the Abyss was widely recognized as the strongest assassin group in the underworld. There were even some members of the underworld who believed that they possessed the strength of a sacred sect and was the most horrifying uprising force at this moment. Let's return immediately, Wang Xian said to Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan. Yes, young master. The two of them nodded their heads. Wang Xian hesitated for a while, returned to the treasure room, and took Zhan Lu and Hao Zhong with him. Her zither was destroyed because of me previously. I shall compensate her with this. At the thought of the cold expression of Tang Yinxian with her broken zither, he shook his head slightly. Holding Zhan Lu and Hao Zhong, Wang Xian headed towards the shore. A short distance away, a yacht awaited him in the middle of the sea. Other than his yacht, there were over 20 ships in the surroundings. Wang Xian jumped into the air and landed on one of the ships. He collected it as resources for his dragon palace before doing the same for the rest of the ships. Wang Xian felt it was a little wasteful to convert these ships directly into resources. When he returned to his yacht, Wang Xian placed the zither in his room. Lying on the bed, he soon fell asleep. The yacht moved rapidly. When he arrived at Rivertown, dawn had broken. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment. In the end, he did not make a trip back home first. Instead, he got Mo Qinglong to drive the caravan towards Ning City directly. When they arrived at Ning City, it was already noon. The 7 Dragonians from the abyss had arrived before them. Wang Xian took out his phone, hesitating for a moment before dialing a number. "Hello, you." From the other end of the phone call, a pleasing voice sounded. It was clear that she was shocked too. At this moment, Tang Yinxian was in a 5-star hotel in Ning City. Around the hotel, the disciples of the Heavenly Sound sect were hosting a banquet. A 1.8-meter tall young man stood in the middle of the field. He was wearing a set of exquisite and traditional clothing, just like a prince in ancient times. He stood proudly with his chest up and a cup of red wine in his hand. A group of good-looking men and ladies surrounded him and were constantly showering him with compliments and pleasantries. The young man was the saint of the Heavenly Sound sect. He had just emerged victorious from the selection today and would likely become the future elder or even sect leader of the Heavenly Sound sect. Tang Yinxian took a glance at the saint in the banquet before walking to a corner of the banquet. That young man had actually called her. She could still feel the palpitations and shock at the thought of the news she came across 2 days after she returned to the sect. At that time, the strength that the young man had demonstrated greatly shocked her. However, all her attention was on her broken zither. When she heard that the abyss had annihilated the dark conjurers, she stared blankly into space for over 10 minutes. She knew that the young man was taking revenge for his subordinates. After luring out the assassins of the dark conjurers and getting some clues, he went to annihilate the entire dark conjurer organization. In that case, the assassin group, the Abyss, was most likely his. Even a sacred sect had to be careful when dealing with the dark conjurers. However, the dark conjurers were easily annihilated by the Abyss. And now, the Abyss was classified as one of the existences that one shouldn't mess with. Recalling that young man and the Abyss, which was in the limelight recently, she felt conflicted. Tang Yinxian, I'm in Ning City. Are you free now? I'm sorry about your zither previously. Therefore, I brought you something this time. The voice of that young man sounded from the other end of the phone. This shocked Tang Yinxian. She frowned, hesitated for a while, and nodded her head before answering. Yeah, where are you now? LZZ International Hotel. LZZ. Tang Yinxian was taken aback. That's the hotel she was in currently. Tell me about your exact location. I'll look for you immediately. I'm in a corner of the restaurant lobby. Alight, wait there for me. I'll be right there. Tang Yinxian didn't reject Wang Xian. She was still curious about that mysterious and insanely powerful young man. Now that he said he had something for her, she would like to take a look. Tang Yinxian hung up the phone. She hesitated for a moment before heading for the exit. Junior sister Yinxian, where are you going? At this moment, a voice sounded behind her. Tang Yinxian frowned slightly, but forced a faint smile out. Saint. She bowed respectfully and continued. I have some urgent matters and have to go out for a while. Oh. What urgent matters does Junior's sister have to leave in such a hurry? Are you worried about the selection tomorrow? The young man had a cup of wine in his hand and exhibited strong confidence. The vibes around him were something that even famous male stars couldn't match. Yeah. Tang Yinxian nodded her head customarily. There are some things I have to get prepared. Junior sister, if you agree to what I've suggested, I'll lend you the Sky Devil Zither. The young man stared at Tang Yinxian intensely. Thank you, Saint, for your kind intentions. I have some urgent matters to attend to, and shall leave now. Once again, let me congratulate you on becoming the Saint. Tang Yinxian frowned slightly, gestured, and left. Saint, hasn't Tang Yinxian agreed to be your girl? What an arrogant girl. with her current standing, she's not qualified to be with you. That's right. Our saint is exceptional and will definitely become the management of the Heavenly Sound sect in the future. For that Tang Yinxian, her chances of becoming the saintess tomorrow couldn't exceed 10%. Senior sister, who has over an 80% chance of becoming the saintess. Moreover, senior sister, who is the daughter of our vice sect leader and is interested only in you. I feel that senior sister, who is a better match for our saint. Behind them, a group walked forward and spoke to the saint after hearing his conversation with Tang Yinxian. Enough. The saint's eyebrows knitted together, and he was clearly displeased. Senior sister who? That woman comes from a great background. Her looks and talents are also exceptional. However, she has already lost her chastity and couldn't be compared with the demure and pure Tang Yinxian. Chapter 321. A Zither as a Gift 2. Seeing that the saint had turned restless, the crowd went silent in an instant. Some of the female disciples looked at Tang Yinxian from the back with faces of envy. How does a lass like you with no prominent background deserve favor from the saint? With curiosity in mind, Tang Yinxian walked towards the reception of the hotel restaurant. In favor of the saint's kindness, she paid no attention to the commotion behind. She had not been supported by such strong backing at Heavenly Sound sect. She had been discovered by a half-step inborn from the sect by chance, and taken in as a disciple from there. Through her own efforts, she had ascended to become one of the top disciples in a short span of just over a decade. Yet, despite having achieved her current status as a half-step inborn, she was not very confident in the face of the assessment today, given that even the granddaughter of the vice sect leader also had to vie for the position of saintess these days. Her master, too, had little confidence in her becoming one. She was bound to lose should there be a competitor whose natural abilities were paralleled with hers, but came supported by rich resources and strong backing. This was something Tang Yinxian had found hard to concede. Where are they? Tang Yinxian asked as she came to the restaurant entrance. She swept a glance inside and saw a familiar figure at the far end. Walking over, Tang Yinxian looked at the party surroundings. He was seated alone, whereas another two familiar figures sat at a table nearby. Ah, our lovely Tang Yinxian, to think you made it here so quickly. Wang Xian greeted with a smile, waving as he saw Tang Yinxian approaching. The delicacies on the table had remained untouched. Alongside lay a precious sword and a box, where the latter resembled a zither casing, somewhat doubtful. Tang Yinxian looked at Wang Xian and asked, "Young Master Wang, may I know the purpose of you asking me over?" With a warm smile, the current Wang Xian appeared gentlemanly and dashing. In fact, he looked much more elegant than the current saint. But Tang Yinxian knew better. This young man standing before her was highly likely to be the leader of the Abyss, the organization feared by many, mainly to apologize over the issue of the zither from before. Wang Xian explained. He noticed that Tang Yinxian was not carrying any zither on her back. Likely to say, she had not found another one worth bringing around, after the one gifted by her late mother was ruined. "You don't have to." Tang Yinxian declined upon the mention of zither, with a cold expression. She remained standing instead of sitting down. Seeing her slightly glum face, Wang Xian shook his head. "I went to Ning City to settle some matters. It so happened that I obtained a zither yesterday, but I've got no use for it. So I'm giving it to you," he chirped. As he explained, he retrieved the zither of Haozhong and placed it in front of Tang Yinxian. "I don't suppose you'll want to chat with me while standing. I was the reason why your zither was ruined. So here's one to make it up to you," he added. Tang Yinxian hesitated for a moment before she seated herself across from Wang Xian and nodded. "I'll decline the zither. Since you've helped to elevate my cultivation, we're even," she said in return. Wang Xian muttered as he rested his back on the chair. Take it, having accepted $2 billion from you and being your bodyguard for several days. We're actually more indebted to you, to be exact. Wang Xian persuaded. Tang Yinxian procrastinated briefly and looked at the zither on the table before shaking her head. I've already got one, she rejected again. Just take it as you're told. Accept it, so we can call it even. Wang Xian persisted. With a tinge of dominance, Wang Xian placed the zither at a spot nearer Tang Yinxian. We may not be close, but even so, I don't wish to owe anyone anything, he continued. After which, he gestured towards the food on the table. Have you eaten? If you haven't, let me give you a treat, he invited. Lifting an eyebrow, Tang Yinxian nodded in reply, sure. She picked the zither up and placed it on her side, before picking up the cutlery and starting to eat. Wang Xian took a look at her before starting on his meal. Neither Tang Yinxian nor Wang Xian had uttered a word then. It was an admiration of aesthetics which Wang Xian had towards Tang Yinxian and her melodic voice. Other than that, he had no ulterior motives. As Tang Yinxian was a very slow eater, she had yet to be done even long after Wang Xian had finished eating. He played on his mobile phone and had no interaction with her. It was a rather rare sight. A handsome man and beautiful lady seated together in a corner, having a meal, but with no interaction throughout otherwise. I'm going off, Tang Yinxian said to Wang Xian upon finishing her meal. Sure, it's already after 10. Time for me to head back and turn in as well. Wang Xian replied, smiling. Tang Yinxian looked at him with doubt before picking up the zither on her side. Carrying the zither on her back, she headed for the exit. Wang Xian walked alongside Tang Yinxian while holding his long sword. Once again, there was no interaction between them whatsoever. Both of them had just stepped out of the restaurant when they heard a few shocked voices coming at them. Oh, it's Junior's sister Tang, a voice called. It's Junior Tang indeed. Junior, didn't you say you were leaving early for an urgent matter? Another asked. Tang Yinxian stood dazed for a moment as Wang Xian remained by her side, slightly taken aback. He too looked over at the crowd with gleaming eyes. A figure emerged in his mind, which stood in contrast to the group ahead. There's a guy with her. Hey, look everyone. Junior Tang's carrying a new zither on her back. Someone in the crowd exclaimed. Who's that young man? Another asked. The group of disciples from the Heavenly Sound sect stared at Tang Yinxian in utter confusion. Tang Yinxian had left the saint's feast earlier in a hurry. Little would anyone expect to see her meeting a young man here. There seemed to be more than meets the eye with what was going on. Upon seeing Tang Yinxuan's look of shock, which was soon followed by a frown, the saint, who was walking in the middle, withdrew his smile. He scanned Wang Xian over before turning to Tang Yinxian and asking coolly, Junior Yinxian, didn't you say you had something urgent going on? I did. My friend wanted to give me this zither as a present, so I'm here to collect it. Tang Yinxian explained and met them with a calm look. Oh, what zither is that? Senior's curious now, Junior. You've even rejected my Sky Devil zither. I'm curious to find out which zither your friend has gifted you with. The saint refuted. As he smiled coldly, the saint turned to look at Wang Xian. He raised his head slightly and stared down at Wang Xian snobbishly. Who's this friend of yours here? I'm the saint of the Heavenly Sound sect, he announced. Just a nobody here to present a zither as a gift. Wang Xian replied plainly as he looked at the saint. Ha! No names mentioned. Huh. By all means. I won't remember it anyway. The saint smirked. Junior sister, what good zither can a nobody gift you with? Consider my offer. After all, it's your most crucial selection test tomorrow, he advised Tang Yinxian. Dismissing the saint's words, Tang Yinxian looked on with a face of dismay and annoyance. She turned to check on Wang Xian, to see if he had been offended. A nobody? This gentleman here is most likely the leader of the abyss. How does that make him a nobody? Right now, she was more afraid of Wang Xian, for fear that he may strike at this saint any moment and finish him off. After all, she was not sure if Wang Xian would be mindful towards a saint from the Heavenly Sound sect. There's no need for that, but I'm thankful for your kind intentions, Senior. As for tomorrow, I'll leave it to my own fortunes to see if I can make it as the saintess. Tang Yinxian excused herself graciously. Junior Tang, you accepted a gift zither from a nobody right away, but kept turning down the help offered to you by a saint. Isn't this too much? A female disciple snapped. She resented Tang Yinxian with a face green with jealousy. That's right. How can a lousy zither from a nobody compare to the saint's sky devil zither? Junior, is there something going on between you and this lad? Another questioned. Chapter 322. Saint? One strike. Several female disciples of the Heavenly Sound sect mocked Tang Yinxian. They looked at her before turning to Wang Xian. When the saint heard what the other disciples had said, he was clearly displeased. He was the saint of the Heavenly Sound sect and had been wooing Tang Yinxian for some time. All the gifts he wished to give to her were rejected. For the saintess selection the next day, he disregarded the possibility of incurring the displeasure of the vice sect leader by wanting to lend his sky devil zither to her. In the end, Tang Yinxian rejected all his kindness and accepted a zither from an unknown person. Even he would not believe if one said there was nothing between them. Tang Yinxian heard the ridicule of her peers and was a little embarrassed. Cough, cough. At this moment, Wang Xian coughed twice. He looked to the disciples of the Heavenly Sound sect and said, I'm sorry. If you guys don't know anything, please choose your words wisely. I'm a married man. Wang Xian continued, a gift from an unknown person might not always be a shitty item. Besides, I have not heard of all your names either. Huh. Wang Xian's response made the crowd of Heavenly Sound sect's disciples raise their eyebrows. They looked at him and started scrutinizing him from top to bottom. You have not heard of our saint's name? You must be cut off from the world. You can go look him up, the 9th-ranked youth on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. Hee hee, you must not have seen the world. A young man said with contempt. He's just another frog in a well. The only question is which sect he's from. Tell us about it, or let us see what you're capable of. The other young man lifted his head slightly and looked mockingly at Wang Xian. Haha, if there's time, you will naturally be able to see it. Wang Xian smiled and replied with hidden meaning. It seems like we have someone who is really confident about his strength. Instead of waiting for another day, why don't we do it today? Show us a little. Seeing how casual and relaxed Wang Xian was, the saint revealed a smirk. Moving his arm slightly, a long flute appeared in his hand. The metal flute spun in his hand and pointed at Wang Xian. Metal attribute aura circled the flute, giving off a sharp glow in the process. This is my secondary weapon, golden imperial flute. Saint, this rascal is clearly acting tough in front of us. How could he possibly compare with you? He's just a nobody who talks louder than what he's capable of. I, your junior brother, can easily defeat him. A young man smiled and looked at Wang Xian when he saw the saint take out his weapon. At this moment, he smiled mockingly and gradually placed both of his hands before his chest. Counter-integral. Suddenly, he chanted some music notes. The devilish music headed towards Wang Xian's ears. Suddenly, strong winds started blowing around them. The chilling cold wind turned into musical notes and struck towards Wang Xian. The young man stared at Wang Xian with a mocking smile. Clearly, he wanted Wang Xian to make a fool out of himself. The surrounding disciples of the Heavenly Sound sect also looked on with ridicule. As disciples of the Heavenly Sound sect, their methods of attacking were creepier than other sections. They could integrate their attribute energies into sounds. A strong inborn expert with high music attainments could even make one lose his sense of direction and self. In their view, an unknown rascal, tried to act tough in front of them, that would be equivalent to asking them to humiliate him. Crack! At this moment, a crisp sound of a sharp weapon propagated. A stream of metallic energy disintegrated all the wind attribute, musical notes, and headed for the young man's palm. Arg! The young man cried out pitifully and immediately moved his hands aside. Looking at his own palm, he was horrified. Long and deep wounds had appeared on his palms. They were so deep that one could see the bones. Fresh blood was oozing out from the wound. "You dare to attack me!" The young man revealed a pained expression. He held onto his arm and stared solemnly at Wang Xian. SSS. When the disciples of the Heavenly Sound sect saw the injuries on the young man's hands, they gasped. Their pupils constricted as they stared at Wang Xian. Huh! The saint frowned and murderous intent gleamed in his eyes. He looked at the treasured sword in Wang Xian's hand and commented, "You are pretty strong, but you must be courting death to injure the disciples of the Heavenly Sound sect." As he spoke, he moved the golden imperial flute in his hand and pointed directly at Wang Xian. The next moment, the metal attribute energy shot out. It was the disciple of the Heavenly Sound sect that had started this. However, they ended up chiding Wang Xian. How domineering and unreasonable. "Saint, this is a friend of mine." Tang Yinxian was shocked. She quickly moved to stop the saint from attacking. She was really afraid that the saint would offend Wang Xian, and Wang Xian would kill the saint on the spot. Besides that, she was a little surprised by Wang Xian's attribute. If she had remembered things correctly, he was using water attribute attacks while fighting with the assassins from the Dark Conjurer. However, he was using metal attribute attacks currently. "Your friend." Seeing Tang Yinxian blocking his attack, the saint's expression turned gloomy. "He dares to attack the disciple of the Heavenly Sound sect. As the saint, I have to stand up for them. I'll cripple anyone who dares to injure us. Could it be that you, Tang Yinxian, wish to stop me?" As he spoke, he stared harshly at Tang Yinxian. The anger in his heart raged even fiercer. "Hee, you started the fight and yet tried to stop me from retaliating. Saint, I've really not heard of the saint of the Heavenly Sound sect or the 9th rank existence of the outstanding young heroes chart. In my eyes, saint, one strike is enough." Seeing the young man before him, trying to attack him, Wang Xian's expression turned chilly. He lifted John Lu in his right hand. "Dang. TSK, I'll let you know the consequences of being arrogant and talking big in front of me." Seeing that Wang Xian wanted to retaliate, murderous intent gleamed in the saint's eyes. He waved the golden imperial flute in his hand. Woo-woo! As the air entered the long flute, rapid notes were made. A sharp metallic edge shot towards Wang Xian. Dang! However, Wang Xian drew Zhan Lu partially out at this moment. The intense metallic edge on it formed a razor-sharp golden sword. Before the sword left the scabbard, the glow of the sword had already been shot forward as an attack. The metallic edge from the golden imperial flute vibrated a little in the air before disintegrating rapidly. As for the sword glow of Zhan Lu, it slashed towards the golden imperial flute in the saint's hand. Pa! Before the saint could react to it, the sword glow had split the golden imperial flute and was striking towards his shoulders. What? The saint was horrified. He immediately dodged to the side. However, the razor-sharp sword glow still landed on his shoulders. Instantly, his clothes were dyed red from blood. Pa! The golden imperial flute split in the middle and fell to the ground, giving off a crisp voice. One strike was enough to split the weapon of the saint of the Heavenly Sound sect and injured the saint. Trash! Wang Xian kept Zhan Lu away and looked nonchalantly at the crowd. Without having to pull Zhan Lu completely out of the scabbard, their saint was already injured by it. We will meet again if fate dictates. Wang Xian looked at Tang Yinxian and spoke with a smile, after which he turned around and left, as he felt disinterested. Tang Yin stood rooted to the ground, after which she turned to look at the figure behind her.